podcast. What we chat about.
Mm.
Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Brought to you by J. Michael, fashion for everyone. Good morning. Happy Monday, Sandy.
Hey, Blake and Aaron. Happy Monday. How are you guys doing?
All right. What do you got for us this morning?
Fantastic. So it was somewhat of a quiet weekend. On Friday, however, the RCIPS made their presence known. Let's put it that way. So they were all over West Bay Road and parts of Georgetown. They said it was an operation that they were carrying out. I don't know what they called it. I think it was something like Operation Get to See Us. Because they did a very, very good job. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, there's police presence everywhere. What's going on? It wasn't really so much that anything specifically was going on. They just wanted to make their presence known and to remind people that they're out there, doing checks and
Everyone's
security checks and so on. Yep.
How about Operation Just Do Your Job? Why does everything
All
have
the
to be an
time.
operation when it's
Exactly.
your job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be doing it every night.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
should
All
not
the-
even
all
every
the
night,
time.
every day.
I know.
Too.
That's-
Right now,
that's
out on the
funny.
roads.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I thought too, but hey, it's a PR stunt.
Because it makes you wonder what it's like when you have too much output in your job at work. Because then when you do that, the boss is like, well, what are you doing the other times if you don't do that much work? So it's like, what are they doing when they're not doing all that, all that work?
All the paperwork for that one operation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So our
Always
thoughts
have
and
to work
prayers.
slow at work.
Our thoughts and prayers are going out to the people of Morocco today.
Yeah.
There was a major earthquake over the weekend. And, CMR actually has a connection to Morocco, believe it or not.
Mm.
And so we're going to be talking to our web guy this morning because he lives in Morocco and he was impacted by this, obviously. So just an unbelievable situation, but, we're thinking about them and hopefully the international forces can give them the assistance that they're going to need during this difficult time. So 6.8 earthquake hit Morocco on Saturday morning. And it's unfortunately had some devastating consequences. It was at 11 p.m. their time, local time. Just shocking, really.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll definitely get some more details on that. The governor continues to make her rounds around the place. In case you guys have not noticed, she has been busy trying to visit everyone. So she recently visited the fire service, and she was saying that she was so pleased to see the wonderful work that they're doing, saving lives. And she got a tour of the facility, tour of the equipment, and she actually did a really cute social media post with her sitting in one of the fire trucks. So that was she said big thanks, a huge thanks to the fire chief, Randy Rankin, and his colleagues for being ready to respond to fires and other emergencies and applauding their bravery. So really interesting to see her sitting in the fire truck, put a smile on your face. Over the weekend, we also, I think it was actually on Friday or Saturday, it was the 1-year anniversary of the passage of former Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Mm-hmm. Friday.
There are people who were acknowledging that as well over the weekend. And today is September the 11th, by the way, a day that's memorialized in a lot of our minds. We'll be talking a little bit about that this morning. Big congratulations to all of the young and upcoming chefs. The Young Chefs Young Waiter event was held recently at the Ritz-Carlton, and these young folks performed extremely well. Came out swinging with some amazing cuisine, and they're just so incredibly talented. So we continue to encourage them to stick with the hospitality industry and see if they can make a go of it. But some of them are interested in becoming chefs and waiters And so they took part in this. And big congrats to Sebastian Maya and Rosie McKittrick, who will be going to the World Finals in Monaco in November.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, those are your news headlines this beautiful Monday morning.
Thank you, Sandy. And you can catch Sandy's show coming up right now on Bobo 89.1 FM. We'll see you tomorrow for Tuesday
guys.
headlines.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye. All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. We're going to be kicking off here in just about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. In the meantime, sit back and relax. We're going to grab our links, send to everyone who is going to be joining us on air at 7:35. Isn't that lovely?
Bigger, better, bolder. The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's community radio. We are still spilling the tea and committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman, live, direct, it's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
I'm on time, hitting it when I'm supposed to hit it, and it's still a bit off. So we will work on that. And I noticed it. I think it was last week, and I thought, maybe that's just me. And I was going to double check it, but I verified it this morning that it's definitely off by probably at least 30 seconds. So we'll try to get that sorted out. That's why you guys are not hearing us on radio immediately, but not to worry. We are here, good folks. Hope that you guys had a fabulous weekend. We're going to go through it all and get everything sorted out here today. So, my gosh, we have so many things to cover this morning. We're going to see if we can, I guess, start at the beginning. So I trust that you guys had a safe and enjoyable weekend. I had a good time this weekend, actually. Got to do a few fun things. And then, of course, we also got some bad news, which I'm going to share with you here in a bit. So we'll get that all sorted out. Hopefully, we'll be having a guest jumping in on the studio as well. So what did I do this weekend? I took Zeus to the beach for the first time. So he had a good time. And he could swim, boy. He's a natural swimmer. Those little doggy swimming. I don't know. Do all dogs know how to swim automatically? I don't know if a dog ever needs to learn how to swim, but he's 7 months now. And so this is his first time going to the beach. The only problem is, because he hasn't been in water before, he doesn't know not to drink the salt water. And you know what happens when you drink salt water, honey chill. That will definitely do a number on your stomach. So that happened. Yes, my dear. So he he had his little morning, his first little swim yesterday afternoon in the ocean. And it was fun though. He had a good time. Gigi loved seeing him swim. She just thought that it was so incredibly funny. And yeah, what can I say? Except that it was pretty interesting to see him have a good time. And they're actually so tiny that they get really cold pretty quickly. Although it was a hot day yesterday, once they're in the water, I find that little dogs do tend to get pretty cold. And so, of course, he was no exception to that, feeling cold for his first little swim. So made sure I had his little towel for him. And then we were able to let him just sit down and enjoy the beach a little bit. He's still barking a lot, so we need to work on that when he sees other dogs. There were some Labrador retrievers having a good time at the beach as well. So he was all up in their business when they were not paying him any mind. So I was like, Zeus, you need to calm down. I think that training collar is waterproof, except we forgot it at home. So next time we might have to put that on him so he can behave. But it's good to get your dogs out and about, folks, and allow them to run about. And even small dogs, they love it. Enjoy a little bit of the nice things that the Cayman Islands have to offer, including our ocean. Dogs love to swim. I don't know if you take your dog swimming, but they love the beach. They love swimming. That's been in my experience. Every single dog that I've had. What is so funny is when I lived in the States, we never really took our dogs to the beach because the beach is I don't know if I'd even want my dogs in it kind of thing. But before we moved here, we thought, right, we're coming to the Cayman Islands. Of course, the dogs will want to go to the beach and get in the water. So we took them in the water a lot there, so they could just practice. And let me tell you something. One of them in particular, Oscar, I swear that he could have been a dive dog because he knew how to breathe underwater. He'd actually put his head underwater and take out rocks and pebbles. And he loved, almost like a little scavenger hunt for him. He loved picking up rocks and then trying to bury them in the sand. It's just a fun time, really, for the entire family to enjoy our beautiful beaches. And we haven't been in a while. So we thought, yes, it's time to get out there, and took Zeus with us. So he had a fantastic time. And then yesterday morning, I played a little bit of pickleball. Oh my gosh, my shoulder this morning, my right shoulder is really, really sore. The knee's not too bad because last time it was the knee, honey child, and I had to ice it. The knee's actually feeling pretty good, but I'm really feeling some tightness and pain in the shoulder. So I think I might have to arrange a massage in that area and probably just ice it and do like maybe my cupping or whatever to kind of try to loosen it up. Like I can feel that it's super tight. But what a wonderful time I had. Thanks to Jason. Big shout out to Jason who sent the invite and said, hey, come on out to the new pickleball courts. By the way, it's just amazing to see. It's amazing to see this facility being utilized by so many people. So I'd like to congratulate the developers on this project because it's a great way. It was much needed, first of all. And it's a great way for people to get out there and enjoy each other's company and do some nice physical activity together. And it was a lot of fun. I was like running up and down that court like a little old lady. But still getting some good exercise and sweating like I don't know what. So I must tell you that although I've got little aches and pains here and there, I actually feel pretty good. So it's do what makes you happy in terms of physical exercise. Just do something, I think, is the bottom line. So get out there and go for your walks. If you're a runner, jogger, yoga, there's so many wonderful activities available on this island. And pickleball has now been added to the list. And I don't know how many courts there are in total, but there's quite a few. There's quite a few courts. And quite frankly, it's so amazing because it was great to see people, older people, younger people, people from all walks of life really out there enjoying themselves and enjoying a good time on the court. And it looks like on Sundays, based on what I was being told, it's like an open thing where you can go and just play with whoever's there and whoever's free and whoever wants to play, which was fantastic. I think that's good because if you play with the same people all the time, you kind of get used to like their strengths and weaknesses and their style. So it's good to mix it out with different people who can teach you different things. And I think you become a much better player when you have that diversity in your play. So it was fun. And I just still have the El Cheapo rackets. So over the weekend, it occurred to me that I need a decent racket because I borrowed a friend's racket while I was there. And I played just like 2 seconds with it and I could feel the difference already. Like equipment really matters in a lot of sports more than people realize. And so when you play racket sports, whether it's tennis, pickleball or whatever, the quality of the racket, the material, the thickness, the grip, like all sorts of different things can really make your game that much better. And because I have played tennis and squash in the past, and those are much more like power centric, games in terms of the power. Pickleball, not so much so. Don't need quite as much power because it's a much shorter and smaller actual playing area. I found that I'm oftentimes overshooting the boundaries of the pickleball court. So when I played with her racket for a little bit, I had less power just because of the design of the racket. It wasn't, my hits were not quite as powerful, like it was actually slowing me down. So, so I think that was fantastic. So I need to order myself sort of a higher level racket, if you will, so I can, play better. But yeah, I'm all for it. So we're going to talk about that here, Alejandro, in just a bit. So so had a great time. We went to a birthday party on Saturday. Big shout out to Island Taste. They have some amazing donuts, apparently. I had one on Saturday and I was like, ooh, this donut was delicioso. Oh my gosh, I had to stop eating it like the icing was just like, oh my God. So did that and did some other family activities over the weekend. So it was good fun. Poor little Gianna, I think she overdid it on the jumping, what do you call it? The jumping castle. What do they call this? Bouncing castle. And so she's got a little muscle pain from yesterday as well. So she has to kind of take it easy this week and ice it and just kind of relax. kids are they're tiny but they can get sore muscles and injure themselves and stuff. So you got to be very, very careful with that sort of thing as well. So good morning to everyone. We've got Miss Vernita in the house. Miss Morna is here. Morning to Irvelin, Everton, Olivia, Leroy joining us. He says he's still in Miami. Fantastic. I saw you posting some pictures from Aventura Mall. I haven't been to Aventura in a minute, like years actually. I don't know. I've been kind of bypassing them and going elsewhere the last couple of trips that I've been to Miami. So, the vibe at Aventura is more of a high-end vibe too. Like they've got all the luxury brands and stores, but none of them are like bargain shopping. And y'all know I like myself a bargain shop. I might buy the name brand, but I want to buy it at Marshall's and get it at a discount. I'm not paying no $200 for top now at Aventura Mall. No, sir. But it's nice to go there and look. And of course, they have a cheesecake factory and a few other restaurants and stuff that are fun to check out. So enjoy yourself, Leroy. I think you needed a break. So that's good. And you guys can see I got a little bit of a tan from my beach trip. Even my watch line is a little bit tan. I got a tan with the bathing suit line and stuff here. Look at that. Yeah. So I got to enjoy a little sun and stuff as well. A little vitamin D. Jonathan, good morning. Andy's here. Diamond Princess is in the house. Miss Alba, buenos dias. Alice, wishing everyone a happy Monday. Aliano says, good morning, Cayman. We broke. No. We're going to get the full sauce on that here in a bit. Damaris, good morning to you. Barbara, how are you? Rebecca says, good morning, Miss Sandy. Morning, Cayman. Greetings in the Philippines. Hey, Rebecca. So good to see you. We will talk about 9/11. Yes, today is 9/11. So we're going to obviously discuss that this morning as well. Wee Wee is here. Alan, so good to see you. We'll get to that conversation a little bit later on. Felicia is here. Miss Daisy in the house. Marshall, I saw you flexing. Marshall, what have you been up to lately? You've been going to the gym. I feel like you got somebody new in your life, honey Jill. You've been wearing all these sexy all white party outfits. And then I saw you in all black over the weekend. I'm like, Marshall is stepping up his game. Got me wondering what is going on. Wow. Good for you. You feel good. You look good. Do what you got to do, honey Jill. Why not? Miss Dean says motivational Monday, y'all. Miss Sanya's in the house. Keisha, good morning. Good morning to Miss Debbie. Dean. Oh, by the way, the phone lines. Oh, let me make sure that the phone lines are. Oh gosh, the phone is down to 30%. I forgot to charge it this weekend. That's okay. 30% will last the show. Damaris is here. Luis, Patricia, Blake in the house. First Lady says good morning to all. Leroy says got my cup of vodka and OJ. It's only 7:50 in the morning. I got my apple cider vinegar. How's that? He's enjoying his vacay. Miss Bonnie is here. Christine, good morning to you, joining us from Jamaica. Steven's in the house from the UK. Alejandro, good morning. So good morning. All of our usual suspects is here, including Miss Stephanie Brooks, Miss Gina, Miss Sonia, Juanita Ebanks, Johan, up bright and early. What time is the premiere on and updating the CMR Mafia? He says, we're going to do that a little bit later on the show because we got so much to talk about. Good morning, Mr. Henry Leslie. Siobhan is in the house. Miss Marjorie, Paul from Bermuda. Marshall says, I'm working on me. The big 5-0 is around the corner and I got to get it together. Woo! I tell you what. Yasmin is also here. And of course, Gabby got it locked as well. So close to 300 people on the live stream and lots more. Hello, Miss Lucille, listening to us on the radio, no doubt. Don't forget, you can call the show 936-2626. You can also reach us on WhatsApp. So if you're overseas, you don't have to make a long distance call. Just call us on WhatsApp. Bling, 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 bling. Ring. And there we are. Look at that. First call of the morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy. Dexter here.
Hello, Dexter. How are you?
I know I'm fine. Thank you. I know a lot of people don't want to remember, but today is the 19th anniversary for Hurricane Ivan.
Yes, we're going to be remembering it. Don't worry.
And you know what was so beautiful about it?
Mm-hmm.
That you could see every star in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
We have never had that. After that, it would see you see turned off the electricity. You could see, and another beautiful thing about it was that people were so nice.
Mm-hmm.
And after Hurricane Ivan for probably about 2 years, and now they're back to their old selves. That is the sad part about it. Why do people change? Why can't you be nice? It's better to be nice than feel. I don't know. It's just me, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about some of that here in a second, but it's easier to be nice during adversity, to be honest. It's much more difficult to humble yourself when I suppose you don't necessarily need to. But we'll talk about that here in a second, Mr. Dexter, not to worry.
Okay.
Thank you so much, my dear. All right. So yes, we got a lot to cover today.
Okay, you take care, Sandy.
Okay, honey, I appreciate it. So somebody's asking if we're not getting an update on Prospect Primary today. Not yet. We've got Dana joining us from Michigan. Thank you so much, Dana. So listen, we're going to get into some of what Dexter is feeling this morning in terms of the vibe. Good morning, Andrea. Yes, it is September the 11th, and it is the 19th anniversary of Hurricane Ivan for us and for the U.S. Their how many anniversary for 9/11, which was a horrific day in the United States of America when we saw the Twin Towers fall. We saw a plane literally attacked midair, and all souls were lost on that plane. Thousands upon thousands of people have died as a result of those two events, both directly and indirectly, because there's still people, there's still firefighters, folks, who are dying. In fact, Marlon's cousin in New York, her husband was a 9/11 responder, and he just recently passed away in his, I think, probably mid 40s, because he was pretty young at the time of 9/11. So, it's the 22nd anniversary of 9/11 for the US and the 19th anniversary of Hurricane Ivan 9/11 for us. So he was one of the workers at Ground Zero and developed one of these very rare and unusual cancers. And a lot of people have. So the death toll continues to rise from 9/11 because they attribute all of these deaths to that single event. Because had it not been for that event and for those individuals there, cleaning up all that debris and so on, they would not have gotten these particular cancers. And so, his name will be added to the 9/11 location. And he will also be, his family now receives benefits as a result of that as well. So it's pretty crazy. We went through our 9/11 19 years ago. That was, in many respects, an eye-opener, as Mr. Dexter properly said, for all of us who lived through it. Showed us how a storm can destroy almost everything. I mean, the structural damage, I think some 95% of the buildings in the Cayman Islands had some degree of what would be considered significant damage. And it also demonstrated to me how incredibly fortunate and lucky we are, because our recovery was nothing short of amazing and a miracle. We bounced back in an unbelievable way. There's still a couple of structures here and there that those people, I guess, didn't have insurance or, whatever, and just haven't built their homes back. I think there's like one or two in Bodden Town. But for the most part, we built back. People started repairing their structures and stuff almost immediately. And, a year later, you could hardly tell that there was anything afoot in terms of the level of devastation that we went through. The photos are there. They're memorializing this event forever. I guess we'll all remember where we were. I think when tragic events happen, your brain has a way of connecting that tragedy with the actual date. Like, where were you when the shuttle exploded, for example. I remember I was in 7th grade, Mr. Gentile's science class. 9/11, 22 years ago, I was actually at SEMA working in the insurance division when we were watching this. Everybody's like, turn on the TV. We started watching this on TV, and it was hard to comprehend. In the first moments of something like this happening, it's always very, very difficult to understand, what is this? Like, your brain is like trying to process it and not quite comprehending. What do you mean? Planes ran into the Twin Towers and the whole thing is like collapsing? Like, we were watching it live and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. It was hard to understand these senseless terror attacks. And of course, the entire world, our entire lives have changed as a result of that event 22 years ago. The World Trade Center, they stood as an example of, I guess, the American success story. And within minutes of a terrorist attack, they came tumbling down. Everything from security at airports to how insurance is now handled. There were a lot of things that changed that day. It's the first time, I think, ever in the history of the entire world that air travel came to complete halt for everybody, not just the Americans, but all over the world. It is considered the deadliest attack on American soil since the shock attack at Pearl Harbor 60 years before that. And as you can imagine, for them, the outrage was immediate and immense. And of course, they were trying to figure out who was behind it and who was to blame. New York is one of the busiest cities in the world in any given day. And so the magnitude of what these terrorists undertook took a lot of gumption. I mean, you got to admit that they had a lot of balls for attacking America the way in which they did, and the location and everything, going after one of the largest cities and then actually targeting the Twin Towers at that. So it was shocking. And our 9/11 for us was undoubtedly just as shocking. I think that to some extent we may have had a little bit of knowledge that it was coming, because at least storms are coming, but none of us anticipated it to do what it did. And in fact, I remember just a day or so before the storm hit, a lot of you were thinking, oh no, this is going to turn at the last minute, because we were so used to storms like coming very, very close to us and then at the last minute just skirting by. And, it was like, it's all right. Not a big deal. Yep. So, so it was shocking, to kind of experience that situation for sure. Big shout out to Alistair. I don't know if Alistair is listening to the program this morning, but I ended up staying with him and his family there in Spots Newlands. And so we rode out the storm. So now we have that collective memory of having gone through a little bit of a difficult situation together. It was, I didn't appreciate what the storm was doing until we came out. And so, of course, I had my dogs at home in my apartment. And immediately upon coming out, I was like, oh, I'm going to walk from Spots Newlands down to North Sound Estates. I don't know why I thought that I could have done that. So, especially after a storm. But when I got to the top of the main road coming out of Spots Newlands Road, I was shocked. I literally could not believe my eyes. And I turned back and I was like, oh my God, the entire island is devastated. Like I could see it immediately just from what I saw at the top of Spots Newlands Road. And I thought to myself, we're going to have so much loss of life. Like everybody's dead. Your brain automatically goes into this mode of the worst case scenario. And it was bad without a doubt. But thankfully, we had, for the most part, property damage. And, these things, they can be replaced. They can be insured and they can be replaced. But loss of life is a totally different situation. So to know that we only had a very small fraction of attributable deaths, I think it might have been 3 or 4 deaths that they've actually attributed to the storm. Some actually happened after the storm, but they attributed them to it because people were like using their generator wrong and end up killing themselves post-storm, right? But I agree with Dexter that it demonstrated a resilience of our people. People really came together, quite frankly, because they had no other choice, right? I mean, this is what I'm saying about adversity is, in a time of adversity, human beings will come together because they have no choice but to work together. So we had a camaraderie with neighbors, sharing water, sharing food, doing all these things that we needed to do in order to make it through. We had no choice. So when Mr. Dexter says, oh my God, what happened to us? When we get back to our busy lives, when we are, working full time and running up and down with the kids and, working our 2-3 jobs, everybody kind of forgets that we need other people. We might not need other people in that moment. So this is what happens. We go about our business and we do what we got to do. But the truth of the matter is no one lives in complete isolation without other people. So when you have nothing, or when you've lost everything, or when you've lost the majority of what you have, cars were flooded out. I remember down in Spots Newlands, the water came up to the back of our kitchen window. And the back of our kitchen window was like, I would stand outside and the kitchen window was above my head. So if that gives you an idea, and I'm 5'5"-ish. Yeah. So when we talk about how high the canals came and the water came in, listen, it was no joke. Every single car that stayed in our area was a complete write-off because, they were submerged underwater. All the electronics were blown and they were starting to grow mold within a couple of days. It was just unbelievable. We discovered a cistern underneath our building that we did not even know was there. We were in a very small 4-apartment complex, and we hadn't ever thought, what's that little thing in the tile? Why is that cut out like that? Until when we needed water, and we're like, we wonder if that's like a water source. And sure enough, we opened it up, had to crowbar it open to discover that half of the apartment complex has a reserve, like a water reserve, a cistern underneath the apartment complex, like built in underneath the complex. And we're like, wow, this is amazing. And so, of course, it was not drinking water, but it was something that we could put bleach in and at least have a bath when we had no access to water. And the mosquitoes were, oh my God. Remember after Ivan, a lot of us had roof damage and it wouldn't stop raining for like a week. And then the mosquitoes were out killing you. But, we made do. I remember how we put together or whatever little funds we had and went and got some food that we could then grill. So every night, our little complex and a few of the neighbors were sitting outside and we would be grilling whatever we could get for the day, chicken or whatever, for a food source. And then, we'd play dominoes because there wasn't a whole lot to do and you couldn't really be on the road and there was a curfew in place. And the generators, I never used a generator in my life until then. And I tell you what, the hum of the generators at night, after a while, you kind of got used to it and you were able to kind of sleep through it. The neighbors, everybody had a generator, and the sound of generators running throughout this island became sort of commonplace. And having to fill up that generator every day was one of the reasons why anytime I think of being critical of CUC, I think of what an amazing job they do keeping us supplied with power. It's a thankless job, as you all well know. Everybody wants to curse them here, there, and everywhere. But if you had to go to the gas station every single day and, have a generator which can't even run your entire house and just fill that up, you appreciate the cost, like the real cost of fuel. And so we did that during Ivan. And I remember shaking my head thinking this, the cost of fuel then might not have been what it is now, but it was still ridiculous. And there was just so many lessons that came out of that. So I think it's worth us reflecting for a moment today on our 9/11, on 9/11 that occurred 22 years ago, the terrorist attacks, in the United States of America. It was a horrible day for everyone. And I'd like for you guys to maybe share with us some of your own memories if you'd like. 936-2626 is the telephone number. What was your takeaway from 9/11? How did your life change, if at all? I mean, some of you might be sitting here thinking, well, Sandy, my life didn't change. How did your life change? Marshall says natural disasters bring people together. Once the dust settles and they go back to life as usual, mean and nasty, so sad. And sometimes it's not even mean or nasty. It's just people get busy and get preoccupied with their own lives. So there are disasters that are happening around the world. And I think that here in the Cayman Islands, we have the benefit of really getting people to, we have the benefit of not being in that situation. So we don't even appreciate it. So over the weekend, there was a massive earthquake. Now, listen, we had an earthquake. Was it January of 2020, right before COVID hit? And our earthquake was hold on. Was it a 6 point? I think it was a 6.8. Let me see. But the magnitude of the Cayman earthquake was significant. People as far as Miami actually felt that earthquake. And you know what is so shocking is that we had little to no damage. So this was January of 2020, January 28th. We had a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Now, I remember where I was again when that earthquake happened. I was sitting with John I was over at Home Gas. So I was sitting with John and John and Chris over at Home Gas. And when the earth shook, I literally thought to myself, I remember looking out the window and thinking, did something just happen to one of your tanks? Because, those tanks are right there. I'm like, what the hell? What was that? And they jumped up and looked too, obviously. And they're like, nope, our tanks look good. What is this? And then after the earth shook for a little bit longer, I'm like, oh, shoot, that's an earthquake. And so we all went outside and it was just people running outside. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but we were live within 2 seconds of the earthquake, talking about, wow, what was that? That was massive. And a lot of people, I remember that there's some kind of a tutoring center or something across the street where the licensing department used to be. And so they ran out and the kids, I remember watching these kids and a lot of them were crying. They were trying to get on their phone to their parents. The phone lines were clogged up. They couldn't reach people. And I was thinking, you know what? These kids now would be about 15 years old, probably. Most of them probably have never felt an earthquake at all. And most people in Cayman have only felt a couple of tremors post-Ivan. It's not like we've been in anything massive. So this was the big one for us. And those kids also didn't go through Hurricane Ivan. And if they did, they would have been babies at the time. So they probably have no recollection of this event. So they were just, their response was shock and upset and crying and everything. They didn't know what to do. And it just reminded me of their limited experience in this world and how they will probably go through so much more before it's all said and done, right? And so, of course, I was so sympathetic towards the fact that they were crying and that they were very, very upset. I remember one little girl, she was like, Mom, come and get me. I don't know what's going on. And her mom's obviously like, I'm stuck in traffic. Because the immediate traffic grid in Georgetown was like, every parent was trying to get to their kids on Walker's Road and the traffic was just backed up. And it just so happens that there I was in the middle of it, right at Home Gas, seeing people drive by in their cars, but it was like bumper to bumper traffic. So we've had our own tragedies around the world, folks. What I want to say is we have to also remember that ultimately we are so incredibly, we are just so fortunate because every single day, people are dealing with fires, wildfires. They're losing their homes. People are having earthquakes. They're having all of these disastrous situations that are destroying their lives. I didn't even know until yesterday, last night, I was kind of catching up a little bit on social media. And I was reading how in Greece, they've had like flooding that has been massive and destroying a lot of their flat agriculture areas. There's a lot of phenomena that's happening around the world. They're blaming global warming, whatever the heck it is. There's a lot that's going on around the world that is just shocking. So over the weekend, I woke up to messages on, I think it would have been Saturday morning, that early Saturday morning, that there was an earthquake in Morocco. Now, a lot of us have connections and ties to people and places around the world. Believe it or not, a member of our CMR team, he does a lot of web-related things. That's his job and his responsibility. He actually is in Morocco. So he was the first one before any news sources. He was the first one Saturday morning to start messaging me to say, we just had this earthquake and this is what is going on. So it was actually, my apologies, Friday evening about 6:21 our time that he messaged and said, we just had an earthquake. And I was like, what? Now they're about, I think, 6 or 7 hours ahead of us. And he started to send me photos of like local stores, everything just thrown all over the store. And I thought, okay, glass broken. I thought, oh, this looks bad. But of course, you don't know how bad it is until like the day after. And so I'm going to play, he's going to try to come on the show. He doesn't really speak English as such. So hopefully he can get a translator who's going to give us a real-time live report this morning from Morocco of what's happening there. But in the meantime, we're going to actually get a proper news report and what has transpired there as well, because it's been devastating. The numbers are rising at over 2,100 already reported dead.
The rising death toll from Morocco, where many residents are struggling to find food and are now sleeping outdoors after that devastating 6.8 earthquake. At least 2,100 people killed, thousands more injured. New images tonight from Marrakesh. They show the moment the quake hit. People run for cover as the shaking begins. The surveillance camera is quickly obscured. Rescue teams are still searching through the rubble. One person pulled out alive from all the devastation. Our team traveled to the mountains near the epicenter. Entire villages leveled. Today, President Biden joined leaders from around the world offering assistance. ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge leads us off tonight from Marrakesh.
Tonight, terrifying video showing the moment that deadly 6.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Morocco, killing at least 2,100 people, injuring thousands more.
Oh my God.
The violent shaking sending crowds running in Marrakesh. Then suddenly, debris raining down. This man barely escaping with his life. Rebecca Tremblay visiting from Los Angeles.
And it just increased phenomenally in just a matter of seconds. And then that's when I realized, something's going wrong. And all the walls literally felt like Play-Doh. And the floor just felt as if it was melting underneath my knees.
Daybreak and the non-stop search for survivors. This person pulled from the rubble amid celebrations, injured but alive. Our team travelling closer to the epicenter today in the high Atlas Mountains, 45 miles south of Marrakesh. Entire villages devastated. The extent of people's loss here, hard to comprehend.
Well, the scale of the tragedy here is summed up by this woman collapsed on the ground. We're told she lost 8 members of her family in the quake. And the grief here is heavy in the air.
At least 17 aftershocks rattling nerves here, including a magnitude 4.5 tremor.
That's your house.
Omar and his wife trapped inside when their home collapsed. His son, Abdelillah, digging them out.
Yeah, so your economy, your homes, your livelihoods, gone.
Yeah, the agriculture destroyed it also.
But in some villages, rescue teams are now only recovering the dead.
There were 4 houses here. Look at it now.
Many of the buildings here built from basic materials.
Well, these houses here had a concrete structure. You can see some of the debris there, but also they were made from earth, and they stood little chance against the powerful tremors.
And back in Marrakesh, ancient buildings in this World Heritage city badly damaged.
And as we heard in that report, just hard to comprehend the grief. Let's get right to Tom, who's on the scene there in Marrakesh. Tom, you witnessed the devastation in some of those remote areas firsthand today. What are the biggest challenges that rescue teams are facing tonight?
Lindsay, I think accessing the hardest to reach mountain communities decimated by this earthquake is the toughest challenge for rescue teams right now. The number of dead and injured in those areas is simply not clear. And as you can see here in Marrakesh, families out on the streets for yet another night. People too scared to go back in their homes. Lindsay?
We can hear some kids wailing behind you. Tom, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
Rural areas. Oh, my apologies. I had my mic off. Sorry. He was saying, I was just giving you guys an update that Sofiane was saying to me, giving me a real-time update about the devastation. So by 9:30 on Saturday morning, he was saying that 822 people had died, 672 injured, hundreds of people trapped under the rubble. He was sending us real-time photos. He says he had a neighbor who died with her little girl, and by 5:30 in the afternoon, the death toll had risen to over 1,037 individuals. And he said that there were entire mountain areas that were literally removed from the map. Good morning, caller.
Sandy, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I took it off already.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. So he said there were mountain areas that were literally removed from the map, and they can't reach those people in those areas, people in the dirt crying out for help. And so, of course, they also had, they also had themselves, they also had people who unfortunately were having to deal with the aftershocks. They had a number of aftershocks, but continued to tumble buildings. So I'm going to show you guys some footage. Obviously, if you're extremely sensitive, you probably don't want to watch this footage. We're going to see if he can join us here live, but he's going to get an interpreter to join us as well. But here is a house that was still standing post the quake. And then at some point, the rest of it just came down. It's shocking to see this. I mean, their homes are obviously not made of the same material. They use what they have. A lot of it, as that video said, there might be some concrete, but there's also there might be some concrete in there, but a lot of it is just like, the mortar as opposed to the brick, I suppose, because the brick is very, very expensive. Yeah, this is them digging out a child. They're alive, as you can see, face down in the ground. They were, turns out that they were. So look at the little baby. Oh my God. So tragic. So tragic. So they're still trying to rescue as much as they can. And obviously at some point, there will be no further rescue efforts. There will only be recovery efforts, but they still are trying to rescue people. And there was a further update. The rescuers raced to find survivors, so they're still trying to get to people. Yeah. Hospitals are being inundated. As you can see, no stretchers or anything in there. He's trying to put this person so these people live by I suppose any standard, a very challenging existence. It's a different level of poverty. One guy was quoted as saying that he had to choose between saving his parents or his son. And of course, nobody ever wants to make that decision. And he chose his son. He chose to save his son. He's a goat herder in a tiny community in the Atlas Mountains. And he says that he's being haunted by the decision that he had to make. He was there with his wife and 2 children and parents on Friday night when the earthquake hit. And they're saying that this is the country's biggest earthquake in probably close to at least 100 years, most devastating in the region. So this is what he was quoted as saying. It all happened so quickly. When the earthquake happened, we all ran to the door. My dad was sleeping and I shouted at my mom to come, but she stayed behind to wait for him. On the other side, he could see his wife and his daughter. As he made his way into the fallen building, he found both his son and his parents trapped under debris, and he could only see his son's hand poking out through the rubble. He knew he had to act quickly and headed in the direction of his son, Adam, digging desperately through the rubble to pull him out. When he turned to his parents, who were trapped under a large slab of stone, he says it was too late. This poor gentleman says that I had to choose between my parents and my son. He says with tears in his eyes, I couldn't help my parents because the wall fell over half of their bodies. It's so sad. I saw my parents dying. And he points to the stains on his light-colored jeans, saying it is the blood of his parents. And all of his clothes were in the house, and he's been unable to get change since the earthquake. So now the family is living with relatives in a makeshift tent close to their former home. And he says all of his money was also in the house, and most of his goats would have been killed. And remember, he's a goat farmer, right? So he says it's like being born again into new life. No parents, no house, no food, no clothes. I'm 50 years old now, and I'm having to start again. Wow. So sad. He says, I can't begin to think how to move forward, but remembers the lessons that his parents taught him. They always said, be patient, work hard, never give up. And then his son, Adam, again, was there with him. I guess thankful that his father saved at least his life. So just a really sad situation. There'll be so many stories. Little Adam says that my dad saved me from death. So just a sad situation, 12-year-old kid. And the images of, what they have left is just, unbelievable, really. So I hope that someone in Cayman will be starting some sort of efforts to assist the people of Morocco, see if we can't do our little part by sending some funds to these poor people. And we're going to see if we can get a hold of our team member now to see if he's able to take a phone call. But of course, you can understand if he can't. So I think he was going to try to join us, but we'll give him some time because obviously things are a bit crazy there. He might be trying to get the translator sorted out, but okay, if he pops in, I'll let you guys know when he's available. So like I said, I think I don't know what the Moroccan population is like in the Cayman Islands, but hopefully, we can hear more about some efforts to get them some much needed assistance. So no, it's actually almost 2,500 people, Alejandro. He said over 1,000. It's gone up to over nearly 2,500. And the death toll undoubtedly will go up even higher than that. So someone said that our 9/11 was actually 9/12 when the storm actually hit. That might be pretty accurate. I mean, I always thought it was the 11th when it hit and then it went into the 12th. But let me see. Yeah, I think technically it's actually September 12th. You guys are probably right. But we always refer to it as our 9/11 because of the proximity. So Kevin says it was actually the 11th and the 12th. But I think on the 12th, the eye of the storm passed within 8 to 15 miles of Grand Cayman. So I guess we see that as the closest point. Actually happened on Sunday, September the 12th. So pretty crazy. Wind gusts of up to 217 miles per hour. Wave heights 20 to 30 feet, submerging most of the island. I can tell you that no one alive now has probably seen anything like that. Even the 32 storm, I don't know that 32 storm was quite like that, but of course, it might have been for that period of time for them, probably as bad, if not worse, than Hurricane Ivan. So a very, very sad situation. Denny says steel is the source of strength. So yeah, a lot of those homes don't look like they have any steel in them. They're just, I guess, brick and mortar and mud that they put together. Damien says many from Morocco are working on Grand Cayman. So hopefully the community can get together. Ms. Brenda says it's now close to 3,000. So yes, unbelievable. So thank you so much for those comments. So Rachel says it's now 2,497 and still more likely to be added to the grim toll. Ms. Sonita extending her condolences to the family of the dead and all the people, but this is the country that allowed France to use their airspace to bomb Niger over their resources. God is merciful. I don't listen, these geopolitical issues are very, very complex. I don't know that this is probably the appropriate time for that. And you know what also I don't like, and this is something that Caribbean people don't oftentimes understand because we're always indirectly calling down, I think, damnation and whatever on people personally and as countries, right? And I see people doing it to Cayman all the time. Oh, you people think you're so this and that. Wait till the next Hurricane Ivan. Listen, tragedy happens to the just and the unjust. Death happens to the just and the unjust. You don't have to be, I mean, it's so weird that people think that people have this concept of karma, right? And you hear people talking about all the time, oh yeah, you can get what you deserve. Well, there are consequences for your actions without a doubt. But I personally don't believe in karma, probably in the sense that most of you do, right? Just like that comment, like, oh yeah, well, they were the same country who did this. Listen, every single country in the world has committed atrocities at some point. So nobody can say that they've been angelic and they haven't made poor political decisions. and they haven't, done things right. So that has nothing to do with the tragedies that befallen people, really. It's a lot of it poor decisions, poor planning, even in our own lives. Like people, your family members are going to die. People are going to get sick. You're going to get cancer. Like these things are going to happen to you. And it's not because you were a bad person. There's some people who have lived what we would consider as ideal a life as you possibly can, grew up in church, loved the Lord, did all the right things, and they're still struck down with cancer. Recently, I heard of someone, I couldn't believe it. Nicest Caymanian you want to meet. And somebody told me that she had terminal cancer and she was trying to get her affairs in order. Like none of it makes any sense from that perspective. So I don't think karma was coming for her or, I think we need to stop thinking that way and understand that it comes for all of us. Life happens. And so tragedy happens. And, some people might have a little bit of a better quality life than others. And it really has nothing to do with whether you're a good person or not. We've seen some of the most evil people in the world. Nazis, killing off the poor Jews and whatever. And they lived a wonderful life into their 90s. It's like at the end of their life, like, oh yeah, that guy was part of this concentration camp, killing thousands and thousands of Jews and experimenting on them and mutilating them. And look at this amazing life that he has led. You know what I'm saying? So, I suppose if you believe in an afterlife, then you believe that everybody will get their just deserves at some point. But I honestly do not think that that's how it works. It just doesn't work that way. And so when people are in a tragic situation, I don't think that it's particularly helpful to say to them, oh, well, you're having wildfires in Canada right now because you guys, I don't know, stole land from the natives. Well, the Americans did that. Everybody did that. You know what I'm saying? So even now, there are political decisions that are being made. I was reading an article over the weekend by Jacqueline Charles from the Miami Herald talking about all the horrible things that are happening in Haiti. And now there's an orphanage there of special needs children. And the orphanage is trying to get those special needs children out of Haiti because they're dying at an alarming rate because they can't get them to medical help when they need it. Like literally they're being stopped by gangs in the streets when they're trying to get to the hospital. And the gangs are saying, oh, we should shoot them and kill them and take them out of their misery, sending them back to the orphanage. And in one space of like 2 days, 4 of them died because they were not able to get the medical help that they needed. What did those innocent little children do to anybody? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to say, oh, that's their karma too? They're special needs children who were just born with these issues. So I want to encourage people to maybe not think of life in such a simplistic way, because that's, in my mind, it's very simple to try to blame exterior forces on what happens to us, or even try to like, oh, well, because you're a bad person, these things are going to happen to us. No, things happen to like I said, the just and the unjust, and it just is the way that it is. Right? Nobody will be saved from tragedy and mourning in life, and illness and so on. So Gabby says, I was living in Canada at the time of 9/11 or September 12th, but heard the stories of coffins floating down the road. Thankfully, they were from the graves, not from like people that had just died. Darlene says, how can we talk about France bombing? Please stop this. Romelia says, hearing this makes me know we are blessed and highly favored for the families who lost their loved ones. Well, I guess, like I said, you can say that you're blessed and highly favored at all times, even in the middle of a tragedy. Even when you have lost, like this gentleman, when you have lost your parents, at least you have your son. You just have to be thankful because, life is what it is. There's no degree of, listen, it just happens. And we just are fortunate. Like, how do you explain that Cayman has a 7.7 magnitude earthquake that was felt all the way in Miami, shook their buildings, and yet we did not have a single person lose their life? I don't even think we had anybody injured. We had a few potholes that the earth was separating. So we saw some of that. Our homes, which are for the most part pretty well constructed, had some additional cracks in them, but not a single building with a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Not a single building Cayman collapsed. We had water coming out of the ground in a couple areas, obviously. There was a tsunami warning that was issued for us, and then, look at how that worked out for us. No tsunami. And we've seen tsunamis around the world take out hundreds of thousands of people. Remember, there was that Christmas Eve earthquake all the way in which Asian country was that now? Oh gosh, you guys might have to help me out here. And that tsunami came in. I couldn't believe. I think that's one of the worst recorded natural disasters ever in recorded history. Like, so many people lost their lives. So, I think we need to give thanks even amidst our sorrow. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Morning, dear.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Great. How was your weekend?
Not too bad, thank you.
And I hope you didn't let anyone upset you now.
No.
Okay, wonderful. All righty. Well, I have a couple of things to say.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously one of them, I'm disagreeing with one of the big issues that's going on this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And while today is the anniversary of the planes flying into the Twin Towers in New York,
Mm-hmm.
it is not the anniversary of Ivan for us.
Mm-hmm.
That anniversary is tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that maybe some of your listeners were not born in 1988, but a good way to remember it is that Ivan hit us on the 16th anniversary of
Mm-hmm.
Gilbert. Okay? Because Gilbert came on the 12th of 1988. 16 years later, if my math is right, there was Ivan. And then the earthquake in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
While that earthquake was a 7.7 magnitude, the reason we didn't get any damage from that is, while I'm not a meteorologist or anything like that, but I do try to understand these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the epicenter was and the depth. That's why we didn't have a tsunami. And compared to the earthquake, that just hit Morocco, it was a 6.8, I think. And the epicenter was very shallow and up in the Atlas Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, the deeper that the earthquake is, and of course, if it's out to sea, there's less damage that will be sustained on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to look at, I'm saying us now as Cayman, where we're situated geographically on the plate, In other words, that's why here they get so many earthquakes, because of where they are situated on that plate. So for those who, might be wondering why we didn't get damaged, why buildings didn't break up, shake down, and so on, that's right. But if that epicenter had been Cayman Bay or Georgetown, Savannah, Cayman would have been devastated, worse than we saw in Ivan. But God bless us all the time that it always happens to be some distance off from us. So I just wanted to say that and to give people an opportunity to think about these things and understand, because the more you understand them is the better you can be prepared for them. Remember back in 2004, after Cayman had the earthquake, remember there was an earthquake in Indonesia. I believe it was on Boxing Day for us. And remember, it was followed by a tsunami. So that's why they had a tsunami.
Yes.
Because it was shallow. Same thing happened in Port Royal, Jamaica, many moons ago. And so, for those who don't mind reading, it's good to look these things up and get an understanding, a basic understanding of how weather works. And the same goes for hurricanes. You know, just get a basic understanding. You know, the more knowledge you have, is the better prepared you can be. We could get another Category 5 hurricane. Let me say it the other way around. We could get a Category 4 hurricane. But depending on, I'm going to say the personality for lack of knowing all the right words, but that we could sustain much more damage. So then we got an Ivan. So just, and I say that simply because, you know, the direction it could be coming from. So, you know, the winds are going to be coming in a different direction. God forbid that it comes in from the south. It could bring the sea in, you know. That's a whole different story. So as we are in the hurricane season, we're one day away from the anniversary of Ivan and Gilbert. Take the time to just read up on these things, earthquakes and hurricanes. We are in the zone and on that plate for both.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So 936-2626 is the telephone number. And yes, there are definitely a lot of factors that can play into the degree of damage that's caused. And, you know, quite frankly, as well, our infrastructure is something that would be somewhat helpful as well. So I see him trying to do a video call in WhatsApp. Let me just give him this other link. Just one second. Okay. All right, just give me 1 second here. So I'm just trying to see if I can bring him into the show so that you guys can see him. Okay, so you might actually get a live update from Morocco this morning. Let's see if we can make it happen. Look at that. CMR bringing you some news straight from this tragic situation. Such a sad, sad day. Sad last couple days for them, for sure. So let's see if we can get him to join the show. Okay, let's see. So someone says that they actually Cayman, and they worked in the Twin Towers. So it's a very painful memory for them. It was such a pleasure and honor to work there. One of the insurance companies was had an office there in the North Building, and we lost 300 employees. Their floor took a direct hit, and we did a memorial for them at Elmsley Church. Wow. Unbelievable. Oh boy. All right, let me just see here some other messages. And I mean it you know, not to say that the things that we concern ourselves about are trivial, but when you look at life and these situations of life and death, a lot of the things that we spend our time on is incredibly trivial, but oh, my shoulder. It's part of who we are, right? So someone's got a lost phone. This person says excessive heat alert today by the weatherman. Be careful. Okay. And this person says, good morning, Sandy. The reason why our tsunamis aren't so bad as the Pacific ones is that their tectonic plates are on top of each other and move, versus the tectonic plates in the Caribbean rub into each other versus moving on top of each other. Okay. We don't have so many mangroves that we lose the Semi Beach, maybe. Morning, Scott. Rachel says another bad disaster, hurricane-like cyclone called Medellin Danielle has caused a dam to break and catastrophic damage and flooding in Libya. Oh my God. The city of Derna in eastern Libya has been declared a disaster zone after Medellin Danielle caused catastrophic flash floods across the area overnight. Many residential buildings have been destroyed along the riverbanks. I fear we might be facing a mass casualty event. Oh my gosh. You know, in fact, last year, I have another. I'm going to talk about. We have CMR team members kind of all over the world. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit. Part of the reason why that decision is made, you might be a little bit surprised, but one guy is actually in Bangladesh that we work with, and last year they had these floods as well. They had a huge monsoon or something that caused immense flooding, and so for days he was completely out of commission. So, you know, one of the things that's very, very evident from working with people elsewhere in the world, again, is how incredibly fortunate we are. We have no idea how fortunate we are day in and day out to be living the life that we live. So, oh, Dana, definitely not. I gotta get my arm back in full swing here with okay, Sophie, I see you. I think we're waiting on one more person. Okay, so we're gonna bring him in. Somebody else sent an earthquake in Indonesia. That was today. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, the earth is constantly moving sort of all over the world. So I guess earthquakes are happening every single day, but to have a massive one that caused this much loss of life is quite shocking. So let's go ahead and see if we can bring him in. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much.
We lost you for a second there. Oh gosh. We'll get him back. So again, this is Sofiane. He is they're in Morocco. Like I said, unfortunately, him and his family, they've lost their home, and he's going to be giving us a live update this morning on how things are going. Okay, I think we have you back now. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Sandy.
So first of all, from myself and the people of the Cayman Islands, I want to extend our thoughts and prayers to yourself.
Sorry, I didn't see the other one, the person other one.
Yeah, he's coming on now.
Because he's the translator.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
How are you? I know you're going to be translating for us.
إذا سميتها سانجي باش تكون في إطار تكون سميتها سانجي.
Yes. Hi.
My name is Hisham.
Hisham. So nice to see you. I was just saying to Sofiane, if you can just let everyone there know that, you know, from the people of the Cayman Islands, our thoughts and prayers are with the people of Morocco. We do have some people here in Cayman who work and live here who, you know, are originally from Morocco, and they would have families there. So it's a very tragic situation. I'm so sorry that this has happened to you guys.
Yeah, yes.
So can you give us an idea of what it is that you're dealing with today?
نشرح لك اش قالت.
سير سير سير.
قالت لك قول لها ممكن بحال اليوم قالت لك راه متاسفين لهذا الشيء اللي جرى، وكاينين الناس من تماك عندهم عائلات في المغرب. قالت لك كيتاسفوا على هذا الشيء اللي جرى، واش ممكن تعاود لهم على اللي واقع؟
اللي وقع السي هشام اللي في راسك وفي راسي حتى انايا هو ان الناس كاينين بعد الحادثه، ان بعض الناس اللي بعض الدواوير اللي بعاد اللي مازال كيعانوا لحد الساعه، باقي كيعانوا لحد الساعه، حيت المساعدات اللي كيوصلوا للدواوير القريبه، الدواوير اللي حدا سميتو اللي حدا الناس ديال السلطه، اما الدواوير اللي بعاد اللي كيحتاجوا الرجل وكيحتاجوا واحد المجهود بشري بزاف ما كيوصلهم حتى شي مساعدات.
He said that the nearest village who is suffering from the earthquake is having a trouble for having the materials and the helps to ascending to them. The helps is searching the nearest places from the villages, but the villages that in the mountains that far away is still have a trouble for searching helps.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that he messaged me and told me that a lot of those villages and have just disappeared off of the map because of this earthquake.
شاركت مع بعض الصور تقول لك بحال قالت لك دروك شاركت مع بعض الصور وبعض الفيديوهات اللي كيشوفوا هذه الوضعيه هذه.
The worst destruction has been isolated mountains, which are difficult to access.
Right. And of course, those poor people would have been the least likely to be able to survive an earthquake, I'm sure, in any event, because of the building structures and, you know, maybe their poverty levels are a little bit worse off than people in the city. So, yeah. Very, very
They
unfortunate.
have homes like that. You see?
Yeah.
It's the old way for a building.
Okay. So what part of Morocco are you in as well?
Me, I am in Taroudant.
Right.
Me and my friend also in the region of Taroudant.
Okay.
ولا المركز ديال الزلزال المركز ديال التربط ديال الزلزال هاد المنطقه ديال تارويدان.
لا هي قالت لك غير فين كاينين نتوما قالت لك فين كاينين نتوما.
هذاك الشيء قلت لها قول لها المركز ديال الزلزال يعني المناطق المتضرره هما اللي قراب منا.
Yes, he said the center of the earthquake is the nearest of us. There are villages is not far away, just 20 kilometers, 13 kilometers from here.
Wow. Okay. Now, Sofiane told us that his family home.
شفت معاه واحد الصوره ديال الدار ديالنا.
Yes.
Have they lost
everything? ما هي الا جزء واحد من بزاف ديال المشاكل يعني الا فراسك ايغلي انت
فراسك ايغلي
توقع لها يعني الاقليم بين المناطق المتضرره ماديا ماشي معنويا يعني ماشي سميتو ماشي الناس بشريا ولا شي حاجه غير ماديا كنهضروا على المشاكل ديال الديور يعني راه لحد الساعه واصلين 3 ديور طاحوا والباقي كلشي مخرب يعني فما بالك الناس اللي بعاد اللي مشاو لهم الارواح ديالهم مشاو لهم الوالدين ديالهم مشاو لهم الخوت ديالهم مشاو لهم. كاين واحد جارنا بين واحد المسافه قليله اللي بينه سولناه قال لك 18 واحد من العائله ديالو 18 واحد من العائله ديالو كلشي التوفات يعني بحال قلت السلالات عندهم كامله تمحات مع داك الجبل ما بقى حتى شي واحد عنده نفس الكنيه اللي عنده هو خوالو عمامو كلشي تمحى.
That the people in this region have their families in the mountains that the whole family did.
So you have a lot of family members that live in the mountain. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right. So they're saying now the death toll is, I guess, reaching close to 3,000. Do you think it's going to go?
Yes.
You think it's going to go a lot higher than that? What do you feel?
Yes. The rescue unable to retrieve bodies from rubbles, but there are still difficulties.
Yeah.
The road, many road is closes. The rock slides.
So it's hard to even access the area to see how bad the damage is. Yeah. So
difficult to reach these areas. We have the armies. You know, the armies is still have difficulties also. And the authorities, there are many people are reaching by bicycles, motorcycles, cars, everything.
Wow. So what the people that came around are listening to you, maybe some other people around the world, how can people help? So people are listening to this and they're you know, what can they do to help?
I didn't hear.
Yeah, what can people do to help? Like people who are listening to the
زعما
show
قلت لك
this morning.
بالنسبه للناس اللي كيسمعوك شنو هما اللي يقدروا يديروه من اجل هاد الناس اللي متضررين من هذا الشيء.
What
عاود
do
عاود
they need and how can
بالنسبه لهاد الميساج اللي قالت لك اللي بغات توصل لك دروك، هي قالت لك باللي شنو هو المجهود اللي يقدروا هاد الناس يديروا اللي كيسمعوا لنا دابا، حيت كاينين الناس اللي كيسمعوا لنا دابا في الجزر الكيمان، في الولايات المتحده الامريكيه، في جامايكا، في بلايص اخرين. اشنو هو الدور ديالهم اللي يقدروا يديروه باش يساعدوا في هذه الكارثه هذه.
We just appeal to you to support us. مشات.
لا باقي صوت
باقي.
دابا مزيان.
We just appeal your ma'am to support us by anything to reach these people and to help them for just like
مساعدات ماليه، مساعدات بحال الا كان بالامكانيه ديالهم انهم انهم يصيفطوا شي مساعدات ديال الكونيكسيون شويه معنكشه، واش يفهموا هاد المعنكشه عندهم ولا لا؟
كونيكسيون
هذه.
You listen to me?
Yes.
قلت لك هما بالنسبه للمساعدات اللي يقدروا يعاونوا بها ما كنظنش يقدروا يساعدوا هما مساعدات ملموسه بحال الفراش، بحال الماء، بحال هذاك الشيء، راه يقدر يكون بعيد عليهم. راه جزر الكيمان راه لتحت ديال الولايات المتحده.
بحال المساعدات ماديه ولا كيفاش؟
المساعدات يقدروا يكونوا ماديه، يقدروا يكون في المجهود ديالهم، في المقدور ديالهم ان يكون مساعدات ملموسه، راه مزيانه، حاجه مزيانه. اي مساعده كيف ما كانت راه تقدر تعاون هذوك الناس.
I say to me that any kind of help can help these people to find peace or something, you know.
Any kind of help would be
people
welcome.
Are suffering from
Yes. I'm also going to show a video now. We had someone send in a video from a little village there.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم. القهوة نسيزي مليل. كلشي. عطينا الطالب انت سافتها. كلشي. القهوة من رديت الجوز. الصلاة على النبي. الجوز كلشي. عطي جمنيتو عزو تينيتو شرقي. تكون صافي كوسنت. روح نسكر. كنتي تيحونا دانغي. تيحونا صافي كلشي غينيكم. في السليعت ولا كلشي ولا القهوي تيجمينو جوزو لتكوز. دار الحسين ابراهيم قوسوس دار كلشي غاني يفك غاني في الديسره. لا حول ولا قوه الا بالله العلي العظيم. هاسي مقزور هاسي في يفكهم مقزور كلشي. انت كلشي غير يفك.
For our radio
شوف سي جمال
just some footage of one of the towns there. Lots of devastation.
There are still a lot of bodies under.
Wow.
تقص كثر تسقي ورتبطي وين يزدان في كل قهوه
لدرجه انك كتمشي الى بعض الفجات هذيك النواحي كتشم الريحه
ديال الامانه وفي اللاغين يقص. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سيدي من بن صالحات هاتي صافي.
There are a lot of this. This is just a little bit of what happened.
Wow.
هاتي من الدم محمد. هاتي تقول كلشي تكون هاتي نايس التمسيح. كلشي تكون نايس التمسيح في الضوء. هاتي اختي ديالني هاتينا الجميع كلشي غيجيكم كلشي
Oh my God.
تفضل في السلام حتى نسيت توز يبقى نور تدير وريني هاتي كله سكون خطور تشقى كلشي انت كله غينض كله غينض اعطينا الله رقيه اعطينا الله رقيه مسكين سولنو كيجي تغي محمد
He knows the people.
لا حول ولا
He
قوه
names
الا
the
بالله
people here.
He's naming some of the people.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
عادي متينا يسبل الفقيه ها تنتين بوصابون ها تنسمي الفوس كاع الدر شفتي نايتو تزميتو لا اللي نراضي كلشي غايجيكم ندنسونا كاساسنا قرانا كرا يتغي سولي كرا يموت لا.
So that's another example, folks, of the level of devastation.
سول على الامكانيه باش الا بنبارطاج معها شي فيديو انا هنايا باش نوريك واحد الفيديو راه شفتو هذا الصباح لا اله الا الله. هذا الفيديو شويه
He said that he will share a video. How he can share it?
If he sends it on WhatsApp, I can.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Leroy, I don't know what that has to do with the conversation at the moment. Okay, let me see. I have it here. Okay, we have another video that he has provided us.
There's a lot of videos that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I mean, the thing about this situation, I was playing some of the other videos earlier as well with like the building that was still standing. And I don't know if it was an aftershock that caused that one to collapse, but let's watch this one.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
This is a cause of proper slide.
Oh my goodness. So much loss of life. Can you tell us a little bit about your culture there? How do you bury? I know in the Western world, a lot of times they keep people for like a long time. There you bury people pretty much right away. Is that correct?
Yes. قالت لك كيفاش كتردموا الناس تما ممكن تقول لي على الثقافه ديالهم كيفاش كيديروا.
بالنسبه للرجيم واش في هذه الحاله ولا في الحالات العاديه؟ الحاله العاديه راك عارف الحاله العاديه كنضمهم عادي. الحاله بحال هذه الحالات كيديروا رجم جماعي كيديروا حفره جماعيه كيردموا فيها بنادم كامل حيت ما جات كل واحد يدير
the normal way on this situation. He said in this situation we collapse the bodies and bury them in a hole. You can't bury the one person.
Yes. Wow. You just put everybody
we
together.
Put everybody in a hole and bury them.
Oh my gosh.
And you say, and you can't bury anyone. You will wait until the authorities comes, and the people is so stinky.
So that is what this is here. They're digging a trench and putting all the bodies in there. My God.
That looks like.
Yeah, so sad. Unbelievable.
It's a disaster, really. Really, it's a disaster.
This gentleman, Damien, says, did the two of you lose any family or friends in this? Or your family member?
Yes, we lose many friends here.
Yes.
وعاود لهم على السيده اللي مات لها شي 32 تلميذ تقريبا 32 تلميذ. ملي سولت على التلامذه ديالها راه لقات 32 تلميذ يعني تقريبا القسم ديالها كامل توفى يعني هذوك التلامذ كاملين مشاو.
There is a yes, he said there is a teacher here, a woman. That she lose over than 32 students.
Yes, with just a little students.
Wow.
Everybody in the class is dead.
Oh my God.
It's a really a disaster, but this is the
يعني واخا نبقاو نقولوا لها هادشي كامل، هادشي راه ما كيعبر لا ولا جزء بسيط من هادشي اللي واقع. يعني لدرجه انك من نهار الزلزال لحد الساعه لي زومبيلونس ما وقفوش. كاين بلايص واخا ما وقفوش هاد لي زومبيلونس وهادشي كامل، كاين بلايص اللي مازال ما وصلتهمش المساعدات، كاين بلايص اللي باقيين كما هما.
Yeah, he said that from Friday until today, the ambulances and the workers and all the majority of people, there is no one have a sleep or have a meal or anything. Just work for fighting people or fighting bodies and instructed them to a lot of things.
That must be so difficult for them. Are you still experiencing any aftershocks?
Yes,
Yes, every day is 2 or 3.
Wow. And so now, where are the survivors going? Like, where people who've lost their homes but still have their life?
السبيطارات كيديروا لهم ديك البيات صافي. يعني صباح
and have campings and in the camping.
صباح شفتهم انايا داين لهم دوك البيوت اللي بحال دوك اللي كيكونوا في المقالع الرمال وداكشي، فين كيكونوا دايرين لي دارات بحال البيوت صغار كيكونوا مقادين بالقصدير هكا ابيض، هادو اللي شفتهم داين لهم الصباح في الكاميوات.
Yeah, he said that they made a camp, little camp.
Wow. And some people are wondering about the relief efforts. What countries have international countries started to come in? I know you guys have a close connection with France, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
We have the United Kingdom.
The United Kingdom.
Israel.
كاينه تونس.
Tunisia.
كاينه اسبانيا، اسبانيا. Spain. Senegal.
Qatar.
Senegal.
And Senegal.
Yes.
الجزائر واخا سمعت كاين شي حاجه ولكن ما عرفتش.
لا ما كان والو من الجزائر.
ما عرفت.
So some international aid is starting to come in.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess the most urgent need would be food and water and some form of shelter for the survivors.
Yes, it's more shelters, shelters and food, water, every kind of help, any kind. It's really a mess.
Yes. And the country, the area, Marrakesh is like a historical town. And a lot of people visit there for like a lot of the historical sites. What sort of damage has been sustained in that area also?
Everything is down.
Oh my God.
The tourist places damages.
Yes. Wow. It's so sad. Someone is asking about the United Nations. Have you heard from that organization specifically?
Yes, the United Nations said that if the Moroccans people needs help, it will afford help.
Okay.
It shows the Moroccan ask for help.
Yes. Okay. So he's walking outside now. Is he able to flip the camera around so we can see the area?
واش سميتك واش قريب لك شي حاجه بلاصه طايحه تما؟
شي حاجه طايحه هنايا، حتى شي حاجه ما قريبه ليا طايحه. اللي طايحه هو اللي كاين في إيكلي، انا كاين في الزحمات، يعني بعاد عليا واحد تقريبا شي 3 كيلومتر. يعني نقدر نمشي في العشيه ونصيفط فيديو، اما بحال هكا ندوز ابريل نمشي هكا لا. عارف
He said that it is far away now.
وحده اللي حدايا هي تصوير هذا المحل مزيان هو.
Yes. Oh, yes. The little shop there has some damage and stuff. Yeah. Mhm.
I will show you something, but
Yes.
شوف كاع لا شوف كاع إلا كاين شي حاجه.
I'm surprised at how good your internet connection is. I must tell you, the internet is quite good where you are.
كاين عندنا واحد الدار هنايا.
اسود في الباب اسود في الباب اسود في الباب.
I think he's gonna go and try to show us.
كيفاش كتقلب الكاميرا؟
كتقلب الكاميرا
If you go to settings, you can flip the camera right on your screen. Oh, yes, let's see. Wow.
وي بان مزيان.
Yes, he's showing us a little bit of the area there. So because of the aftershocks, are people afraid to stay inside now also in case?
لا راه كلشي كيبات على برا كلشي كيبات على برا.
Yeah, the people are in the outside now. Even in the cities.
Yes. Someone is saying here that your government needs to accept help from Algeria. What is that?
Yes, because we had a conflict between us for the Sahara.
For the Sahara Desert?
Yes, the Sahara. Tinduf.
حتى شي واحد شوف خويا حتى شي واحد لحد الان راه ما حبس المساعدات من حتى شي بلاصه. ما حبس المساعدات راه ما حبسش المساعدات يعني راه سمعت حتى شي هضره الصباح قالت المجال جاي.
Has Algeria offered any help? I doubt they're probably offering any, but I don't know.
Yes, we are reading in the news that they are offered help, but
okay.
But we had a conflict between us. You know, Sahara.
Yeah. Okay. That makes things complicated. Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much to both of you for this opportunity to kind of, speak to people firsthand in Morocco. We wish you, continued safety. And for sure, the people of the Cayman Islands will see, how we can help also.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
قالت لك شكرا على المحادثه اللي درنا معاهم. قالت لك راه غادي تشوف اشنو ممكن يقدموا لك من مساعدات.
اي صح. المهم راه بيناتنا الاتصال الا كان شي مساعدات ولا كما كانت يا سواء كانت مساعدات بشريه حتى الا اضطروا انهم وكان بالمقدور ديالهم انهم يصيفطوا مساعدات ديال يد العون بحال هكا الانسان يجي بحال كي دارت السنغال يصيفطوا دوك الناس اللي يعاونوا. راه قضيه مزيانه راه مزيان هذاك الشيء كيف ما كانت المساعده كيف ما كانت.
He said that we can able to save people from you, send people or anything. People for help or shelters or water, food. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sofian. All right. Have a good day.
Have a nice day.
All right, Hisham. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Yeah, wow. Life, you just never know. Trust me. So Sofian works, like I said, he's part of the CMR team. He does a lot of work for us, for years now. And it's a pleasure working with this young man. He's very professional. He doesn't obviously speak English, but we never have an issue communicating because I guess he uses a translator app on WhatsApp, and that's primarily how we communicate by that and by email. And so it's just so unfortunate. Someone's asking, how do you communicate with him with different languages? I was just getting to explain that. It's quite interesting because the language barrier has never been an issue for us. Now, I'm assuming that he uses translation apps to, when he writes to me, the English is perfect. So we've never had an issue, but even sometimes when he needs to do something and he needs my authorization or two-factor, whatever, he'll call and then hang up, because then the call lets me know that it's urgent and I need to read his messages right away. Very hardworking young man. And before we get to the budget interview with Premier Panton, I do want to talk about, we have a bit of an international team, right? There's actually no one physically located in Cayman other than myself, who's part of the CMR team. So we have someone in Bangladesh. We have Sofiane in Morocco. We've got Kevin Caymanian, but he's in Florida. We have Renee in Florida. We have Kenyatta, who's in California. And we have other people that we work with that are like voiceover artists, and they're all over the world. So what I want to say is, we just try to find the best people for the job who can get it done with little fuss, little muss. And also, not only they're efficient, they do it at a reasonable cost, of course. But let me see how I can break this down. Those of you who follow Andre Stevens, who is a friend to the show, he's been on the show before. He's a blogger in Jamaica. He has a humongous following there. Every night he's live, he'll have like 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people easily watching his YouTube channels. He attacks a lot of different issues in Jamaica, from crime and, cultural issues, things that are happening there. There's some situation brewing now with him and his producer friend, like best friend, producer. The guy's name is Wayne something or another. And the two of them have had some sort of falling out because allegedly he has found that Wayne has taken his YouTube money, like whatever money he makes from YouTube and stuff like that. And it got me to thinking about part of the reason why I also work with people from overseas, and the way that in which I do is because, number one, don't mix business and friendship. Never, ever, ever. It's never a good idea. I've never seen it work that well for anybody. Even myself, I have my husband. We don't work together. You know what I'm saying? He has his own job. That's a professional situation. I have to make decisions. Sometimes I might ask for his advice, but he might not always understand the vision, see the vision, I guess. And I don't necessarily need him to, because, I'm at the helm of this business. Of course, if he gives feedback or he says something, I might take it under consideration. Just depends on what it is. But it's difficult when you work with family members and friends and whatever, because what do they say? Your own fees bite the hardest. That's the truth. And so when someone that you've trusted ends up breaching your trust, taking your money, I heard it's over $3 million. I'm trying to still ascertain whether or not that's $3 million US dollars, Jamaican dollars. Like, I don't know how much. I need to find out for sure what currency that is. And we'll try to speak to Andre about this, but it really made me recognize what an unfortunate situation Andre is now in, realizing that his friend, his producer, has stolen all this money from the business. As small business owners, whether you're a blogger or whatever your position is, you put a lot of work into this. And someone sent me a video over the weekend saying, oh my gosh, I think Andre is like losing it, because he was sending this video where he was just like praying and saying, oh, God help me, God help me, God help me. Evelyn said that's in Jamaican currency, but that's still a lot of money. Even in Jamaican currency, what is that in US? $3 million, 3 point something million. So, at the end of the day, it's very, very unfortunate. I understand that Andre has had mental health issues in the past, and I extend my thoughts and prayers for him during this very, very difficult time. I think what's important to understand is that you see people do a job. You see people get in front of the cameras every single day, and they are, addressing issues in the community. They're talking about these very, very difficult topics. That's about 20,000 Cayman dollars. Okay. It's not easy to do what we do. Even getting in front of people every single day, being the face of CMR, being the face of this podcast, of this show, this vodcast, whatever we're calling it these days, right? It's not an easy thing to do. You really put yourself out there. And I feel a lot of, I feel, a lot of concern sometimes for all of our mental health, because people don't understand the extent to which you are involved in your stories, how emotional you can get about your stories, how you take on all this oftentimes negative energy. And you have to really balance that. You have to think about your mental health and where your headspace is. And when you have people around you who you can't trust and who are, doing things to undermine your business or steal from the business, whatever, I'm sure that does not help your mental health situation any either. So I hope that Andre will take the time. He does every single evening. Andre goes live. I think he does at least 2-3 hours, the equivalent of what I do. And, he has a very different energy level that he brings to the show. And so even that, like, sometimes it's hard to explain to people. Like, sometimes people message me and like, oh, Sandy, you seem a little bit off today. What's going on? You can't always sustain the same energy level every single day. Like, it just really depends, right? On what's going on. And so when you try to sustain that even takes a physical toll, an emotional toll, a psychological toll on you as well. So I feel very, very bad for Andre. I think he's been having some difficult times lately. There was some woman who I think he was friends with or something who had physically attacked him as well. It's just unbelievable. So Andre, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. I hope that you can maybe take a step back. Like, I think there are times when we have to recognize that, what, I need a break. I need a vacation. I'm taking one next month. Trust me. I'm going to just clear my head, take some real time off. We're going to do like the best of series. We'll play some content for you guys to be able to listen to. But, you just gotta take care of yourself first and foremost. And this can be a very, very thankless job. Trust and believe. I was talking about this last week. People don't understand. The people who don't have to do it. They're not the ones fielding the phone calls, the messages, everybody needs help. And you're the person that they're coming to. And it's not a matter of the mind not being willing to do it. It's sometimes that you just need to really disengage and to take a break. Now, I don't do anything with social media monetization. I've never made a single dollar off of a YouTube video. I've not signed up for it to be monetized. I don't really care about that because I'm in the space of content creation and I study a lot of content creators to learn from them, right? So to learn how to do certain things. The one thing that I've recognized is a lot of them, these are people who have millions of followers and have hundreds of thousands of views. They really get caught up in this world of, oh, if this particular video doesn't get, 500,000 views, all of a sudden I'm losing money. And, YouTube is going to treat my algorithm separately and they're going to put me down. Like, it's just a crazy, crazy world. I mean, my husband keeps saying to me, oh, you need to monetize YouTube. And I told him, listen, I don't want the headache. For me, it's not worth it because I see the mental struggle that a lot of YouTubers go through and it just isn't worth it for me. I'm like, nope, I don't need to monetize. I'm fine. I don't need to monetize YouTube. I have no interest in monetizing Facebook. If people want to watch a particular video, because then it even drives your content in a different direction. Like if you see a video do particularly well, you're like, okay, well, this is the kind of video that I have to constantly do. I'm not into that. Whatever topics we're going to talk about are specific to the people of the Cayman Islands for the most part, want to focus on our issues, resolving your issues, talking about them, whatever. I don't want to worry about, that's an additional worry for me. Oh, how is YouTube ranking me? And how am I doing on YouTube? And what do I need to do? No. Let's just leave that to the side. But I know for people who are in that world, it causes them a lot of stress. And sometimes you'll see big time YouTubers all of a sudden say they're quitting YouTube, or they just disappear completely for months and months and months. And then they come back and you hear that they had a nervous breakdown or they had, all these sorts of issues. And so, it's just an unfortunate, I don't know why Zeus is barking. Does he have to go to the bathroom? So it's a lot more complicated, I think, than the average person realizes. And so there's a lot to be said for that. And if you're not in that world and you don't realize what it takes, you have no idea. Trust me. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm
Yes.
a senior citizen and I've never called a call-in program.
Oh, wow.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. But I had
Good.
to call about this because I heard a lady say that the anniversary for Ivan is tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to make sure that my experience with Ivan was that it started on the 11th and continued into the 12th.
Yes.
And I actually wrote a note somewhere and said, look, when I saw that rain going, I think I felt understood how Noah felt when he sent out the different creatures to see if the water was down. Because the place I was, it was just raining and raining and raining, and it was going up and going outside, and I just prayed and prayed. So I just know that was my experience with Ivan, that it started on the 11th.
Yes.
And since I'm here,
yes, ma'am.
If I have another minute,
sure.
With respect to 9/11 overseas, I have a note on that too. I had two sons overseas studying in the States, but my first thought went to my brother who was living in New York. And as it transpired, he was leaving home to go to work in that area. And something in his devotions that day saw her niggling at him, and he turned back into the home, called my sister who is in another country, and discussed the matter. And of course, my sister, being who she is, she prayed with him. And while they were having that encounter, his daughter called from another part of the state to see what was happening with him. And he wasn't even aware of what was going on. So I thank God that my brother was spared. I feel really badly about those who lost their lives and their relatives and so on. And I have no theological explanation for that. But I thank God, and I pray for all those who are still suffering from that. I saw a note yesterday about the responders. No responder left behind. Anyhow, that's another long story, and I won't keep you, but I'm telling you, this is the first time in 72 years I have ever called a calling program.
Thank
I've
you
been
so
on the
much.
radio and TV, different shows and so on.
Yes.
So I just want to wish you and all the listeners and
Thank
everybody
you.
all the best.
Appreciate
and
it.
encourage us to walk with the Lord. And you were right. I heard you saying this morning, it's not because you're bad that something bad happens, because bad things happen to others. We just have to be humble, walk in faith, and beg for God's protection, and do what we can to be instruments to help with change. So now I've said my piece after how many ever years. And
Thank you so much. That's amazing. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I really had to share that because I even lasted at least 2 days.
I agree. And you know what? Don't be shy. You've got our number. So feel free to call anytime.
Okay. Thank you. All the
Thank
best.
you too. All right, my
Bye.
dear.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh my gosh. I feel so honored. First time in her life. 72 years?
72 and a half almost.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right,
Walk
my
with the
dear.
Lord.
Thank you very
Okay,
much. I
thanks.
appreciate that. We'll do 936-2626. Isn't that amazing? 72 years. First time calling in a talk show. And it happens to be our program. Bless you so much. Andrea says that Andre has mental health issues, long time. And this is why I think it's even more important for him in particular. This stresses everybody, trust me. But I think for him in particular, he's got to be careful, because $20,000 might be a lot of money to lose. Somebody steal it from you, but believe me, it will not be worth it to be back on the streets and lose everything that you've built. People respect you in your community. They respect you in Jamaica. The politicians are listening to what you have to say. You're making a meaningful contribution to your country. And people, it seems to me that people are always waiting for you to fall, if you know what I mean. They're always waiting for you to trip. And you know what? We're all human beings, and we will have these moments of despair, but don't allow other people to be the cause of your downfall. You know what I'm saying? Try to hold it together and try to make better decisions in terms of who you work with. So Irvlin says, I totally agree 100%. Friendship and business never work out. Marshall says, when it comes to business, you don't mix it with family or friends. It's a bad recipe for disaster. Garrett says, I agree with Sandy. I don't monetize either. Doing monetization turns your hobby into a job, and it becomes a huge headache. And it's a job that you can't control. So unfortunately, you can't control YouTube always changing up their algorithms and stuff, right? Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Sandra. I just tuned in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Did you say anything about prospect primaries yet?
No, we haven't. Probably on tomorrow's show, we're going to get to prospect primary.
All right. Thank you.
You're most welcome. All right. So a lot of people waiting for that prospect primary update. We're going to get there. Dean says, I can very much relate, been there, and I got badly bitten. Melita says, that's right, TD. At the end of the day, no money in the world can restore the mental health. So it's just not worth it. All right, folks. So coming up next, we have a, let me just see how many minutes this is. I think it's about, it's going to be about, let me see, 42 minutes or so. We've got a segment here, interview with Premier Panton about the budget. So as you can see from today's subject headline, the question is Cayman broke? ? And it is a question. Some people sent me like, oh my God, this is your headline. It's a question, hence the question mark, and not a statement, because people are asking the question. So Lavana, you're going to have to hit that rewind button a little bit later on. So the question again is, are we broke? And I've had people messaging me from last week after this email was leaked to the press. We didn't get it. I guess this one was one that only the Compass got, or I don't know, CNS got it. But it was leaked to the press about, the premier asking, for some fiscal responsibility and some fiscal cutbacks. And unfortunately, people took that to mean that the country is broke. And I don't think that is, people are jumping to all sorts of conclusions. So folks, one of the things that I feel is my responsibility on this program is to separate fact from fiction, to ask the questions from the power that be. Is this the situation? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I'm always willing to set the record straight. Sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes other media get it wrong. Sometimes people in the community are simply jumping on a situation because, they heard this and their granny told them this, and this person who's supposed to be a high-ranking civil service said XYZ. You got to make sure that your information is correct and the source of your information is correct. Because I get it. I get that people want to believe any and everything in this day and age. And maybe it's a popular position to want to believe that the country's broke once the premier has said, you know what, let's make sure that we try to be more fiscally responsible with our expenses. And so we had an opportunity to sit down with the premier. And for the record, we're going to do more of this style of interview where we sit down with him. We say, okay, let us hyper focus and, answer these very, very specific questions. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi. Calling you actually from Florida.
Hi, good morning.
And good morning. I'm involved very much with the Moroccan relief organization.
All
we're
right.
helping them with the satellite communications for the police forces, and the army, etc.
Yes. Is it possible? Let me ask you a quick question. Could we potentially have you, because of course I'm thinking how people here in the Cayman Islands can help with these efforts. We're just about to go into a 42-minute interview with the premier, but could I invite you on the program tomorrow to talk a bit more about this, about your efforts, assisting the rescue efforts, recovery, and then hopefully finding out how we can help the poor people of Morocco as well?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
I'm working with Craig Maron.
Okay.
And he told me to call you.
Yes.
So yeah, that's fine.
All
So
right.
do you want me to give you a number to call me, or?
I see the 954 number. Is that your WhatsApp number?
Yes.
Okay. So I will save that and I will WhatsApp you, and then we'll coordinate something for tomorrow.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
So lots of efforts, folks, somebody from Florida, lots of efforts underway to assist the people of Morocco. And we want to be part of that, solution as well. Okay. So we had an opportunity to sit down with Premier Panton. And, I like this format because it allows him to uninterrupted to answer the people's questions. The next one I think that we're going to do is on stamp duties, trying to understand what this government has done. Have they been giving out concessions to big organizations, developers, exactly what their remit has been since they've been in office for the past 2 years? There's a lot of questions. If you have a particular area that, you want us to do an interview segment on, by all means, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to try to arrange those interviews. Obviously, the premier is very, very busy. That's an understatement. I understand that he was supposed to take a trip last week. The trip, for some reason, got canceled. They're still in the middle of trying to complete the budget, and they were up to last night working into the wee hours of the night, late hours of the night, I should say, 10, 11 o'clock every single night, trying to get this budget done and trying to have it all come together. It is a humongous process that I suppose none of us could really understand. Listen, most of us can't even manage a budget for our own households, if we had to be honest about it. Okay, that's a difficult situation. Imagine trying to do $1 billion budget, $1 billion+ budget for this country. It is a job that I do not envy. So sit back, folks, listen to the interview, hear what the premier has had to say, some of the questions that we put to him. It's going to take us very, very close to the end of the program. We've got about 50 minutes left, and this is a 42-minute interview. So do sit back and enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Spotlight with Premier Panton is an in-depth focused interview analyzing the issues facing our country. These one-on-one interviews allow the Premier to explain decisions, answer questions, clarify misinformation, and address community concerns, leaving no stone unturned. Spotlight is proudly brought to you by The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM.
All right, folks, we're here with the Honorable Wayne Panton, Premier of the Cayman Islands, to talk a little bit about budget. There's been some sort of questions arising in the community as of late about what's happening with the budget. An email went out, so we're just going to try to clarify as much of this in a quick interview today to hopefully address any concerns or general questions that people in the public may have. Now, Premier Panton, can you explain to us, please, about the budget process? I think a lot of people don't really understand how this works. Is this something that you do every single year, or is it every couple of years? How does it work?
Yeah. So I think about 2016, it was changed to become a multi-year budget process. So as it is right now, the budget is done for 2 calendar year periods. So we came into office in 2021,
right?
And we had a short period of time to do a budget. There are times when you can do a temporary budget to bridge a gap. But we did a temporary. I don't think we did a temporary budget. We continued with the existing budget under the original administration, the last administration, and then moved into doing the SPS, which is a strategic policy statement for the next budget.
Right.
The budget is comprised of a couple of steps. One is the strategic policy statement or the strategic development of the budget, and basically that requires you to say give an indication of what kind of policies and what the cost of those policies are, approximate cost of those policies are. So it's sort of an indication of what the next budget will look like. And as I said, that's the policy part. And then you have until the December 31st of every the end of every budget period to make sure that you have the new budget in place for the next 2 calendar years. Okay. So that's where we're at now. So we are finishing up the 2023, which is the second year of our budget, our first budget, and then we have to get the 2024 and 2025 budget approved by Parliament through Finance Committee, and that has to be done by December 31st in order to have it in place for January 1st going forward.
Right. So you start off with the strategic policy,
right,
which is, just give an example, that might be you saying, for this government, a priority is going to be funding school lunches.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of something that we prioritized. That was our policy position, and we adopted that, and that was reflected in our budget ultimately for 2022 and 2023, and that the cost of that was somewhere in the region of about 16.5 million. Obviously, when you budget these things, you're projecting potential costs, approximate costs. You are trying to make sure that you have enough money there that you can deliver on the policy. It may turn out that it costs a little bit less than that. Sometimes it turns out, unfortunately, it may cost a little bit more. So you have to make some adjustments. But obviously, if it costs less, that's great. You can deliver what you want to deliver to be able to help the people of the country, to help families. And let's face it, that has been a considerable help. We started with the primary schools, and then we moved into the shortly, I think within 6 months, moved into the high schools. So that has helped Caymanian families to the tune of hundreds of dollars every month to reduce their cost, they're having to give their kids lunch money and pay for lunch otherwise through programs. So that's a good example. I mean, there are many others. We are a people-centered government. Right? We have taken an approach of recognizing that, particularly coming out of the COVID environment and the post-COVID environment, we know that people are going to be struggling. The impact of COVID was very significant across our economy. So we knew people were going to be struggling, and we needed to be able to support them. So we supported them by continuation of some of the COVID stipend programs. We did extensions of some of the business support programs. And then we included, the funding for the school lunches, which included breakfast and snacks and lunch and this type of thing. So, we've also done things like we've granted, a lot of fee reductions for seniors. I remember when I was minister previously, one of the things one of my constituents wanted was to have fee reductions for seniors who have to register vehicles every year and this type of thing. And that's what they got delivered, So we've had several different scenarios of fee reductions for seniors. We've done across the board duty reductions for young families with children, for women's products, these types of things that generally help families. That's what we've been trying to target, trying to deliver in a targeted way to help families and help people. And yes, they do cost money, and it means a dedication of resources. But that's what we have been doing to reflect the fact that we're focused on trying to make the lives of our people better, and to try to support them in an environment where we are transitioning out of, we're still in COVID. Remember, we took over, we were still pretty much isolated, and we still had all the borders closed. We had to work through how you transition that with a board that was set up in government to provide advice, and we successfully did that. Yes, you will recall there were periods when we first, despite saying, look, this is going to happen, once we reopen, we're going to have COVID in the community, there was a lot of panic and concern. So we pumped the brakes a little bit to make sure that we had a few weeks to settle people down so that they were able to make the mental adjustment. And then we moved on, and we've successfully transitioned into an open economy. We have transitioned into excellent economic performance, strong, growing, and stable economy. We've got the best unemployment numbers that any government has had for decades.
Right.
The challenges we've had, I think everybody recognizes we've had challenges around the supply chain issues that continued after the COVID. We've also had the issues with the geopolitical disruptions, like Russia deciding they were going to invade their neighbor, Ukraine, and that caused all of this commodity volatility, particularly around energy. The cost of fuel, but also things like the cost of food, and basically these things have driven up inflation around the world in most countries in the world, and certainly happened in the U.S. And what happens in the U.S., because we are a huge importer of products from the U.S.
Yes.
It impacts us, and there's very little we can do about that, about controlling those prices that we end up, and that inflation we end up importing, to prevent it from happening. But we have to find ways to mitigate those impacts in Cayman. The good thing, of course, is that our the rate of inflation here is coming down. It's still, prices are still going up, but they're going up at a slower and slower pace.
Right.
And hopefully, we'll get to a point where it flattens out, mostly. I don't think that the reality is, unless you have more undesirable situations like, like a recession in an economy, the prices don't tend to go down, right? I think we all know that. But if we can get it down as low as possible, then you are limiting the impacts on our people.
Okay.
And right now we have, it's just in excess of 4% at the last measure. So we had 11%, we'd had 9.5%, 9.6% late last year, and now it's down to about 4.6, I think it is, thereabouts. So it's definitely flattening out. So that's good news. But it still poses a challenge. We all understand that, Cayman is not a cheap place. Paradise isn't cheap. We live in a wonderful place, but we don't produce a lot of things. We don't grow a lot of things. We import it all, and we happen to be hundreds of miles away from our source markets for these products and services.
So let's talk a little bit, because you said you're in the middle of the 2023 budget process right now.
Right.
So how long does that process normally take? Are we talking about, a week, 2 weeks, months? Like, what does it look like in real time?
Well, the SPS was delivered in May.
Right.
And then basically, it's usually several months of working through the budget, and then you either present the budget in October or November, and then it gets it goes through the parliamentary process, which is typically Finance Committee. Well, it's presented to Parliament, and then you go into Finance Committee, and the opposition and the public get the chance to see and hear discussions around different points on it, explore, and prod and try to understand what the budget looks like and what can be expected from it.
So are you at the
and we have to
tail
do that
end
by
of
the. Well, we're not in the parliamentary process yet. Obviously, we're in the process of finalizing the details so that the team in the Ministry of Finance are able to put all the budget documentation together. Unfortunately, it ends up being, a whole stack of paper. And one of the things I would love to be able to do is whittle that down significantly. Ideally, I would love to be able to have paperless approaches to these types of things. But if I can cut it in half, if I can cut it by 2/3, that would be amazing as well. Not just for the concept of sustainability and all that, but it just makes life easier for everybody. For the government, for the opposition, for the staff that have to work on it.
Yeah. So you've taken over the role of finance minister after there was some shifting around in your cabinet, and that seems like quite a undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
So how has that transition been for you in terms of the budget process? Because I'm sure your finance ministry, they're ultimately responsible for pulling and putting it all
Correct.
together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have not had responsibility for the budget previously in any way, whether I was Premier or whether I was Minister for Finance. So, there is for me, these types of things are short transitions. So, I mean, I understand enough about it, and there's no question that I have a very, very supportive team in the Ministry of Finance, and we are working through that. I think, we have, the reality is we have scenarios where it's not just the people of the country that are facing difficulties with cost increases, and the government is facing some of those same difficulties. The cost of everything, cost of products, cost of services, everything has typically gone up. And there, as I said before, there are sometimes delays with, because of supply chain issues and other things. There are delays with getting certain things done. So our challenge is to try to find ways to be as efficient as possible, but also have the reality that, and deal with the reality that costs have gone up. So one of the things, one of the challenges we have been working through is how can we deliver the same or really better services and support for our people in the country while trying to control our expenses. So you would have seen, there was someone leaked it to the media, a memo that I sent around in August asking ministries and agencies to basically not spend something of money if they didn't have to. Most years there are savings in the budgets. People don't end up spending everything that they think they can spend. So the reality is, you encourage people to try to find as much efficiencies and save as much as possible. Because I know that the reality is that there are many, many demands out there. There are many expectations, and at the end of the day, as a responsible government who have been given the privilege and honor of serving the people of this country on a strong democratic footing, we have to honor the obligations that we have to be good stewards of the public resources, good stewards of the money of the people of this country. And if that means I have to say to 21 ministries and agencies. Be careful how you spend money. Save money where you can. Do not spend money just because it's in the budget. Then of course I'm going to do that. That's a prudent thing. That's a, you know, it's what I should be doing as Minister of Finance.
So the reaction that we were getting from people in relation to that correspondence is, oh my God, the government's broke. You know, people are going to start losing their jobs. They're going to put in another hiring freeze. Is that the fiscal position of the country?
No. First of all, I've heard a lot of comments about, you know, they're cutting the budget and all that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, that gets used very loosely. Sometimes it gets used by some of us in government very loosely. That is, cutting the budget is something that would really, truly, technically reflect going back and looking at the budget that has been approved by Finance Committee and going through a process of withdrawing the authority that has been given to spend money.
Yes.
And that's not what that is technically cutting the budget. And that's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
What we have been talking about is how can we deliver services, how can we deliver initiatives for the people of the country to benefit our people, to maintain or improve their quality of life without just spending and spending and spending. You can throw tons of money at something and it may not be a smart thing to do.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I've seen too much examples or too many examples around our region and even amongst many of our sister overseas territories that reflect approaches that are not prudent. And I am not going to be the person who is going to put this country's fiscal stability at risk. I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that, while at the same time trying to deliver, create the right environment that continues to make the economy strong, continues to create the labor environment that we have that is quite strong. But you know, listen, are there Caymanians unemployed? Absolutely. So we know even though we have the strongest unemployment record in 30 years in Cayman, we know that there are people who still need assistance. And our challenge is to find the most efficient and effective ways of doing that without wasting too much resources. So that's across the board what it's like for us to you know, to try to work these things out. And sometimes it takes time. You know, it takes time to do that. And we have not, and it's unfortunate, you know, when you're trying to do these things and you send things around to try to be prudent, somebody sends it out and then they start talking about comments around, oh, the country's broke and, you know, civil servant salaries are going to be cut and all this stuff. That is not true. That is not true. I mean, you'll recall we have been, as we are required by law, been very transparent with the financial information of the country and the government. And we have noted previously that we have had a budget surplus in 22, and we're required by law to have a surplus. That budget surplus initially was based on the initial numbers, I think 47 million, and then once the audit was completed and adjustments were done to reflect the final numbers, it came out to somewhere around 54 million.
Okay.
I know a lot of people think that's a lot of money, and yes, it is a lot of money. Yep. On an individual basis, it's a lot of money.
Of course.
But the country is at a point where we have had we've had record revenue. We've had over $1 billion in revenue in 22 for the first time. But we also have an environment where our population has increased. The numbers of Caymanians have increased. The demands of the business environment have increased. We still have issues, impacts relating to what has transpired in the previous couple of years. And those require resources to continue to try to manage and help as much as possible. So it is easy to see how people will think, oh, you've got lots of money, just spend it, just do this, just do that.
Because that's a general, whenever
Yeah.
people hear the word surplus, they
Right.
always think that means government is.
So let me put it in context for you, right? Our budget for 2023 was 900 or is 950 million. That is the agreed budget. But every year, quite often you get situations which arise where you realize that perhaps in this area or this area, we need additional funding to do the things that need to be done. And as I said earlier, sometimes you overestimate, sometimes you underestimate. The idea is to try to get it spot on as close as possible or be a little bit over. But sometimes with the best will in the world, you just don't get it right. So there are sometimes requests for supplementary spending. And in 22, that supplementary spending was 98 million over the budget then,
Right.
which was 920. So we ended up spending about 52% of that. So again, it's a reflection. They say, well, we need the spending, we need the supplementary spending. There's two ways that can happen, but one is a process which is approved by cabinet to a limited extent, and there's another way which has a pretty much unlimited extent, which can be authorized by Parliament. And that situation can lead you to spend additional money. For 2023, our budget was 950, or is 950. But we also have additional, spending requests because of a variety of things. We therefore, like as I said, 950. We can just round that up to $1 billion, right?
Yes.
So if I have a surplus of 50 million, what does that amount to as a percentage of revenue, which is just over $1 billion, or as a percentage of what I've been spending, which is just under $1 billion? We can just generally refer to that as 5%.
Right.
Right. If I said to you or anybody who is listening to this, if you got a 5% raise in your salary, do you think that would mean that you suddenly have the ability to go out there and spend 2 or 3 times as much, or go and splurge and spend money on all kinds of things? The reality is no. $50 million is a lot of money, but $50 million when you have a country that costs close to $3 million a day to operate is not a lot of money. And we have built into the law, the Public Management and Finance Act, we have built in provisions which try to ensure that we maintain prudent and sound fiscal management. We all know those provisions generally as the FFR provisions, the Framework for Fiscal Responsibility, which had been insisted on, I think, in 2011 by the UK government. So we have to meet those requirements, and we also have to try to ensure that within that space we're delivering what we want to deliver for the people of the country. So one of the things I think we have to recognize is that the COVID environment and the amount of resources that was utilized when government's revenues were significantly slashed, those resources need to be replenished in order for us to maintain strong fiscal stability. We have cash. We don't have an issue with cash. We did borrow. We did utilize the facility that had been put in place by the previous government, and we've actually made money on that because it's lower interest cost to us, and we're in an environment where the interest rate environment where opportunities to earn additional return on that money has gone up. So we're in a situation where it's costing us pretty much nothing. We're earning money on that funding. But I would prefer to be in a position where we have cash reserves that are not borrowed. You know, so we're still in a very strong position. We have strong fiscal management going on, and I think we just need to recognize that not only are surpluses required by law, there is nothing wrong with us having a reasonable surplus, which helps to strengthen the fiscal position of the country. Because at the end of the day, the stronger we are, the stronger the government's fiscal position is, the more you can do to help people without creating a situation where you are really draining resources and you end up having to borrow money or to do things that are going to create situations where we lose our fiscal sovereignty, meaning the UK has to approve our budget. That's not what we want.
Yes.
We are proud, independent people, and we can do this for ourselves. There's absolutely no reason.
So the takeaway then for 2023, there is no cutting of the budget.
There's no cutting of the budget. There's no cutting of civil servant salaries. There's no cutting of resources. This concept of this notion that the country is broke is wrong. It's inaccurate. It's not true. You pick whatever phrase or adjective you want. It's completely inaccurate. So that has to be recognized. But as I said earlier, we do have to recognize that we have lots of challenges, we have lots of requests, and if we stick our necks out too far, then we start to get ourselves in difficulties.
Right.
And we need to be able to be responsible, prudent, and to be able to continue our track record of delivering for people and maintaining that prudence and that strong fiscal track record.
Okay. Now, there was a specific area of concern that was highlighted to us. I just want to clarify this. So we'd received several messages to say that university students who were on government scholarship overseas were looking at potentially not being able to return for Christmas break. Their tuition wasn't going to get paid. It was like this sort of, dire situation. Have you heard anything about that? Do you know what's going on there? That
No,
they run out of money, basically.
I think there's an exaggeration of some of the same comments you have heard earlier, which came from things like my note of let's be prudent.
Right.
People are extrapolated from that and taken what is not an unusual situation and sort of fit that into the narrative they want to say negatively in relation to the country and the government. We may have issues at times, and it's not uncommon to have timing issues in terms of when the funding is done. But it's not that we've cut anything, it's not that we don't have the money to do it. We are the government that has significantly increased the budget in respect of allocations for scholarships for people who are trying to get bachelors, people who are going postgraduate and trying to get masters or PhDs. We've increased the budgets for those, the allocations for those, and it has helped many Caymanians. Look, we know you don't have to be a scientist. It's not rocket science, and we also have clear examples all over the world, but also in Cayman, from many of even our labour force surveys in Cayman. Caymanians who are educated at a bachelor's level or higher make 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 times as much,
Yes.
possibly even more, than someone who's just got a high school education. So the way for us to really improve the quality of life and the outcome for Caymanians is to make sure that there's a better and better rate of education. And that's what we have been trying to do by increasing our allocations to scholarships. That is going to help them. It's going to help families. It's going to improve their ability to, to move up the economic ladder, to be able to educate their children better, to be able to, feel that Cayman is a place that they can live and they can enjoy life and they can have their best quality of life and be as successful as possible. That's why we're investing so much in Caymanians to, try to change that trajectory in a very positive way. So we put a lot more money than has been put in the past. I think we've increased our scholarship levels up to, I think it's about 30,000, and for the bachelor's levels, and I think it's about 35,000 now for postgraduate. So it's really helping, and we've done a lot more things than that. I mean, we've had programs where, we increased the amount of money for A levels for high school students. We had funding around assisting young people to be able to travel to go and get their visa, to be able to go to attend university.
TVET, I know there was some additional.
There's a variety of additional funding around TVET, both locally as well as overseas. And we'd like that to obviously we'd like to be in a position where we can continue to expand that, particularly around TVET, because academics perhaps are not everybody's cup of tea, but we all know that many of the roles that you can work in terms of technical and vocational training are really important roles, and roles in which you can make a good living. So,
absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up then by talking about sort of the broad outcomes that you're hoping for with your budget going into 2024 and 2025.
Right. So I mean, generally, it is about us improving the quality of life of Caymanians. That is, a top level position, improving opportunities, improving the quality of life. We also have to make sure that the Cayman Islands continue to maintain and improve its position of competitive. So we have competitiveness in not just tourism, but in financial services as well, because that is one of our major areas. We've got a very strong reputation there. We are anticipating good results from the next FATF plenary. So we'll come off the enhanced review or the grey list, and fingers crossed, and with the help of God, we'll get there. But it's looking very positive in that respect. So I think that happened in early 21. We are hopeful that by late 23 we'll be off that list. But that's a part of it. That's about enhancing our competitive. It's about strengthening our reputation, but continuing to meet high international standards. It's also about future-proofing the country, future-proofing our opportunities for people to be able to benefit in the changing economy that is existing locally and around the world. The digital economy is an entirely new area. I know you have a lot of expertise in this area because you bring it to bear in your particular context in media, and you know the extent to which innovation and changes in technology made such a vast difference. And you also have to utilize services of people with new expertise in these areas. So it's future-proofing the country, future-proofing opportunities, future-proofing the people to be able to do that. And also, it is about things like climate change. It's about sustainability. It's about making sure that we build in resiliency and strengthen the ability of the country and our people to be able to meet those challenges in the future and to benefit and to, you know, to be able to continue to have that quality of life. We also have a challenge, I think, that we're determined to face and address around modernizing government. We do have to find ways to be more efficient. You know, the Deputy Governor, Mr. Madison, has for some time been talking about the need to improve efficiencies in government. And we want to obviously be able to support that and to promote it and to try to make it happen. I think in the ordinary and normal runnings of government, it is easy to just get tied up in doing the usual things that you do. You have to stop, take time, step back, and look at the opportunities that we have in order to improve efficiencies, so that we can not just, you know, continue to expand the budget exponentially, but to do it in the most effective and efficient ways to deliver for people. Even in a context where, you know, we've got a growing, or have had a significant increase in our population. None of which was, I mean, let's face it, none of which was driven by policies of the government. And we didn't, you know, we didn't say, we're not the government that said, if a government did, that we want a population of 100,000.
Right.
We're not seeking a specific target. We're not implementing policies to try to pursue that. But it has happened in a post-COVID environment, possibly because of the strengths and the way in which we have managed the transition out of COVID. It has happened, and we've got to deal with it. We've got to manage that. And of course, ultimately for us, particularly in the context where we have had this kind of population growth, and most of that population is not Caymanians. Most of it is transient workers, right? We have to recognize that that scenario and that reality brings challenges to protecting and preserving Caymanian culture, Caymanian heritage, and our own Caymanian identity. That's really important to us. As a government, it should be important to all of us as Caymanians.
Yes.
I can tell you it's central to my core. It's central to my being. It's you know, it's what I feel in every fiber and fundamentally. And we have to make sure that we protect and promote our Caymanian identity, our Caymanian culture, and you know, our heritage, our built heritage, our traditions. All these things are really important. So, you know, we have a specific ministry dealing with youth and culture and heritage, and that's what we want to continue to build on as well, because that's what makes us Caymanians. That's what makes Cayman Cayman. You know, the concept of Caymankind, it wouldn't be Caymankind without our culture, without our identity, without our heritage. So those are things that are really important.
Yes. Well, thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Those are 5 core things that I want people to remember.
Yes.
You know, improving quality of life, enhancing competitiveness while maintaining or achieving international standards, future-proofing, modernizing government, and also, very importantly, protecting and preserving and promoting our culture, our heritage, our identity.
Beautiful. All right, well, Premier Panton, thank you very, very much. We know how incredibly busy you are, and you've spent some time with us today, just educating, you know, our viewers here on our program, and we appreciate the opportunity to be able to just sit down with you and go over a few things. So
thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to do that.
All right, great, fantastic. Okay, folks. So thank you very much for staying tuned. Those of you who are still listening to that segment, that was an interview with Premier Panton. Again, the objective really is to learn a little bit more about the budget process and ask some questions that you, the people, had in the community. So I saw some of your comments. Johan says members of the civil service that do not support this current government are responsible for the leaks and the false narrative being pushed in the public domain, which is then echoed by the opposition. Here's the thing, Johan, if we have to be honest, I think that that's always the case. There will always be civil servants who don't support a particular political grouping or government that's in there for whatever reason. Some people might argue that the progressives had, because they were in for 12, 15 years, that they had a bit more, support within the civil service. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know where the civil servants stand politically. There's no polling of them that would even give us a clue. But one could easily argue that this is something that is a constant and ongoing situation. During the last government, there were leaks. There were people leaving stuff on the proverbial, windshield of somebody's car. And so that's just par for the course. I think that governments waste a lot of time trying to find these leaks. Johan goes on to say, what is the deputy governor going to do to address the reality of leaks and misinformation, damaging gossip, and rumors by senior staff that, given their fondness for investigations and leaks, etc.? Well, again, you yourself have given the answer within the question when you talk about the fact that they have a fondness for investigating it. I don't think that they have ever successfully investigated the source of a leak. They investigate it, they waste resources and time, and maybe you just have to accept that leaks are inevitable. This memo that the premier sent out, in my mind, was not a high-level secret memo. It went to like all department heads, all I'm guessing probably chief officers. It was widely circulated. So I don't even know if those individuals saw it as something that could have been considered, what's the word I'm looking for? Not secretive, but confidential. I don't think it was a confidential correspondence in any way, shape, or form. The truth of the matter is, you say something to one person outside of yourself, you can expect, especially in a place like the Cayman Islands, for it to go viral and for everyone to know exactly what was said. So my position is, if you say it to one person, make sure that it's something that you don't mind sharing with the rest of the world and for everybody to just know, because, nothing is secretive in this community, especially, and definitely not in the civil service. I mean, people talk. We have sometimes been on the receiving end of some of that information. The Compass, I think in this instance, was on the receiving end. Like I said, I don't know if Wendy got this one or not, but it kind of goes through the gamut, I guess, depending on who is actually sharing the information. But I'm sure that that was shared within the civil service. Department heads then sent it to other managers to say, hey, where can we, pull in our belts a little bit? If we don't have to, do projects right now, can we hold off? Can we not spend money? I was speaking to someone over at the National Roads Authority about the paving of a road in our residential area, and they said it was on the agenda for this year, but unfortunately we've run out of money. So it's something that will be, that we'll deal with next fiscal year. And so this is how it works. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything particularly earth-shattering about this. It wasn't like a confidential document, like someone's personal business where they were like written up or reprimanded, and all of a sudden that's in the public domain. We should probably see some of those. That would be interesting. But in any event, I think it is what it is. When you get into the world of politics, I don't suppose that you go in there with an expectation that anything you say or do is going to be confidential. Nothing at all. Even when you're hanging out at the bar, whatever you say or do becomes part of the public landscape, and it becomes, what people will talk about in the community. So Live says, the premier looks like he has lost some weight, working hard. Ms. Moya says, yes, government systems need to be updated and better use of the technological advances needs to be integrated in that workforce. It's too antiquated. A lot of the administration time could be cut and used to make services more efficient. I think what was so interesting is that during COVID, we were able to, successfully see people. My apologies for Zeus. He's in the room playing with his toy. We were able to see people work remotely and use technology to some extent to be either as efficient or, maybe even a bit more efficient. Now everyone's gone back to going in the office, clogging up the roadways and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I would like to see government be the leader in remote working because it still very much remains a thing, and people are just as efficient. They can work remotely. They can, people who work in the registrar, they were sitting there incorporating companies and doing all that paperwork the exact same way, virtually stamping those documents, getting stuff done. So I would love for when he talked about the different, elements of the 5 sort of goals, if you will, that the government is seeking out of their SPS strategic SPS, yes, strategic policy statement. Quality of life. I just saw this morning somebody again complaining about the traffic from the eastern districts and how that impacts our quality of life. How many civil servants come from the eastern districts that probably don't even need to, that they could in fact be, at home getting their work done? That's the level of innovation and modernizing of government that I would love to hear a bit more about. Denver says, I think this is the longest Cayman has ever been on the gray list. Well, first of all, we've been on red list. Is that what it's called? Blacklist. We've been on a blacklist before. I don't think that's a true statement, Denver. I'd have to verify that in terms of the exact time frame. But you do not get on a blacklist, a gray list, or any list and have those concerns immediately rectified to the point where you can actually come off of it. So I know that one of the constant remits of the current Ministry of Finance, there's Ministry of Finance and Minister of Finance and Financial Services. So financial services, Mr. Andre Ebanks, one of the reasons he's been traveling a lot and doing a lot of what he's been doing is just try to get us off of that gray list. And so it's anticipated that we've made some significant strides and that will happen. Now, remember, Denver, this is, we're going to be ending here shortly, folks. So about 30 seconds left. But remember, folks, one of the things why I was so critical of the last Minister of Financial Services is that it's like she had one job. That was Madam Rivers. She had one job to keep us off of that list to begin with, because it's exponentially more difficult to get off of a list once you're on it, as opposed to getting on it in the first place. And unfortunately, she was not successful in keeping us off of that list, her or the previous administration. So I don't know if the question is there, Denver, because we're looking to place blame, but you place blame on what got us on the list in the first place. To be fair to this country as well, this is a constant goalpost that people really, really have to ask themselves, are we ever going to be able to stay off of gray list, blacklist, this list, that list for a very long time? Because the G7 nations who are pushing their own agenda and ensuring that we always stay underneath their thumbs will always find a reason to keep us on the list, no matter what we do, right? So we have the most comprehensive, and let me say to our radio listeners, we're signing off now, but join us on social media as we wrap up. But we always have the most comprehensive processes in place with incorporation of companies and all this other stuff. And we still end up gray listed. We still end up blacklisted. So, we can blame governments, I think, up to a certain point. And we also have to understand the reality of it is that they will always seek to undermine our financial services industry because, we've made it too high up the totem pole. We were never expected to do as well or better than a lot of the big boys. And the United States of America, when it comes to money laundering and all this stuff, they should have themselves at the top of their blacklist. Let's be very, very honest about that sad indictment as well. So we're at an automatic disadvantage. Some of it, maybe we can take some blame for, and some of it really is just because of who we are. We're like the bastard stepchild that no matter what you do, they're never going to say that you're good enough. So there's that to consider. Johan said, obviously they did, and the stories that came out of it were filled with inaccuracies, assumptions, and malicious intent to cause a sense of panic. Well, this is a thing, Johan, why we're going to be doing these spotlight series a bit more is because you can get a document and you can look at that document and draw your own conclusions. The conclusions that you draw may or may not be accurate. They're like having an opinion, having an a-hole. Everybody has one, okay? It does not mean that your conclusions are accurate. And so for the world of me, I think it was the Compass who ran with this story. I do have to wonder why the Compass, who boasts the fact that they are, journalists, they're proper journalists, they say, blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't they have reached out to the premier, just as we did, to actually ask him these questions directly? Is the country broke? What is this email that you sent out to the civil servants? What does it mean? Why was it sent out? They could have asked him those exact same questions. So I want to stress for clarity is I don't read the Compass, really. And so I'm not sure what's in their article, but based on what you have said, I'm assuming the presumption that they made was not based on facts. So it sounds like there's been a lot of fear mongering and that sort of thing. And the only way that happens is if they didn't ask the questions. I haven't even seen this email in question, but from what it sounds like, again, there was nothing in the email that should have led one to conclude that the country's broke. It was just saying, hey, if you don't have to spend on projects right now, try to save some money. Caymanians and a lot of people around the world feel like if they have money, they must spend money, regardless of what the situation is. If they have a surplus, they must spend a surplus. And I see people doing this sort of thing all the time. In fact, they'll be like, oh, well, the government claims that they have a surplus right now of millions of dollars. So why don't they spend it on this? And it's like, I think that one of the takeaways from his interview is that's not the point of a surplus. The surplus is not there for you to say, oh, yeah, we've got it. Let's just go ahead and spend it, because we never want to have a surplus, right? We're sitting on tons of money. As he said, $55 million is a lot of money to me and you. Believe me, we'd be sitting pretty. But that's not a lot of money when you're talking about the runnings of a government who has $1 billion expenditure, right? And they're making $1 billion, a little bit over $1 billion in revenue, but they're also spending $1 billion. Not a whole lot of money in the large scheme of things. And so I think there's a lot of lessons and takeaways from that as well for us to understand. Just because the government says, oh, we have a surplus, we have $55 million, y'all are running around trying to find ways for the government to spend it. Oh, well, they said they got extra money, so why don't they give us free uniforms? Why don't they give us free this, free that, and da-da-da-da? Why do we have to pay for anything? You see, it's that kind of mentality that is, in my mind, going to be destructive to this country. And that's why we need to have conversations with each other, with our elected officials, with the technocrats who should have the technical knowledge required in order to explain these things as well. It's difficult to get a technocrat on this show, so we have to end up going to the political arm to try to get them to explain it to us. I guess that's part of their job. But, this is the process, folks, and this is how it works. And as I say, knowledge is power, but you've got to make sure that you've got the right information and you're getting it from reliable sources. Now, the premier, he's now in charge of, he's now the finance minister after that was taken from Chris, right? He doesn't have a CPA or accounting background or whatever, but the truth be told, he doesn't have to have that because it's the financial secretary and others in government who are really responsible for, in large part, trying to put all of these budget documents and stuff like that together and making sure that the budget is balanced and, they've got financials and audited financials and so forth that are being supplied. I think that's my cue. Zeus is like, all right, time to end the show, honey child. Oh my gosh. Hello, Zeus. Did you want to say hi to everybody? Come on now. Come here. Tell them how good you did at swimming yesterday. Oi. Hello, Zeushy Pooshy. Hello, cutie pie. Let's say hi to everyone. All right, there you go. Look at Zeus. Oh, he smells so sweet. He had such a nice little bath yesterday. Oh my goodness. Don't be trying to lick my microphone. You smell so sweet. Say hi, everybody. I'm going to soon have my little doggy talk show. What do y'all think about that? Say I was a swimming dog yesterday. I knew how to swim and I had such a good time. Right? Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Oh, my tweetums. All right. Well, folks, we're going to be signing off now. Zeus, tell everybody bye. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye, Cayman. Bye-bye. Wave with your little swimming paws. Toodaloo. So, folks, we've got a lot of... let me not get you caught up in the headset cord there. So, yes, the truth of the matter is we've got a lot of... he's demanding, isn't he? We've got a lot of issues, facing this country that we will continue to talk about. And so, this is but one. The next topic that we hope to address, what happened? The next topic that we hope to address is around that of concessions and understanding how that process works. Okay. Johan says, why didn't your team do it then? They had 8 years from 2013 to 2021. Do what? Exactly. I don't know. Oh, can anyone please ask the Auditor General's report on the value for money investigation into the deal negotiated by the previous PPM government regarding the Regen project? Can someone please leak that? I thought the Auditor General released it. Didn't they release it? Normally Auditor General reports are not secret for long. They are presented, I guess, to the government. There's a process that they go through, and then they will eventually be in the public remit. That's the whole point of those. Okay, folks. Yasmin, Ms. Moya, everybody else, have a good day. We'll touch bases again with someone on the whole Morocco situation. We'll reach out to the Cayman Islands Red Cross and see if they are actually putting any, efforts together to assist the people of Morocco. And we'll definitely keep you guys updated on that front as well. So until tomorrow's program, have yourselves a blessed day. Work hard, be good, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Yes, honey child.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.